Welcome back to Chatting with Nuts, everyone. This is episode number 81, and we have a first-time guest here on the channel. That has been in other live streams whenever we were unhauling some of my bookshelves when we were moving into this house. But it's a pretty special guest, I would say, because it's the other half of the Nuts equation. And I put it up as Mrs. Nuts, but this is, of course, my wonderful wife, Kelsey, who will be joining me tonight. Kelsey, how are you?
I'm great. It's interesting being in front of the camera. Usually I am behind the scenes, looking at lights, checking audio, not usually in front of the camera.
Yeah, you saved the show when Murphy was here, and we did the other. You're the third live guest. The first was Andrew, which no one watched that one, which is unfortunate. And then Murphy was here, and you saved the show on that one.
I supplied multiple fans.
Yes.
We were ready.
Murphy was overheated. So now that you're in the hot seat, the proverbial hot seat, and it's actually probably a little bit warmer. Is it too hot here?
No, but we're on like the downswing of the weather right now. It's getting a little cooler. I'm doing good right now. We'll see though.
Lights are pretty hot.
The lights are pretty hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't feel like the rest of our house. That's for sure.
No, not at all. Not at all. People were mortified to find out that I don't do this in a basement.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know why, but it's a really big deal for some people. They're like, this is really trippy. They thought it was a basement. Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess that makes sense, but no, not a basement at all. We thought about that, but
one day we're going to have the studio in the basement. It's just going to take some time. We got some of the usual suspects here. And tonight, believe it or not, we are going to talk about books. We're not going to just talk about how hot it is in this room because Mrs. Nuts, Kelsey, has turned into quite the reader. In fact, I think there was a month this year where you read more books than I did. It was close. It was very close. Yes. You kind of went on a tear there. I was impressed. I didn't want to tell you because I don't want to inflate your ego. And then you'll leave me. But
no, I'm on quite the streak. Like it's been like slowly climbing. I still ebb and flow. I feel like you're more of a consistent reader. You just naturally consistently go. I like sprint through books and then suddenly I drop off really hard and then I come back.
Yeah, you're a binger, but it's strange because you don't binge series. That's something I've noticed about you. You bounce back and forth out of series all the time. And I'm always curious, do you find it hard to come back to?
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about that today because my current problem is there's all these large series I want to try. And you're like, well, just take one at a time. I'm like, I want to try them all. So no, I so far have not found it very difficult. This really started with Robin Hobb because I was so concerned about how many books were in the series that I thought, okay, what if I just break it up and I read like one Robin Hobb book and then I switch to a completely different genre and try something else. And that's worked for me because when I come back, I'm so excited for it and I don't have like any fatigue or exhaustion to just completing like 1,000-page book of the same characters. So for me, it works. I could see why some people would want to just finish the series. I like to take my time.
Yeah, you do. And I think it's pretty impressive that you bounce back and forth between so many things. And you know, one thing that I've noticed about you, I've never told you this.
Oh, no.
I never hear you complaining about books.
No. Like there are things in books I may not enjoy, but I have found getting back into reading, I'm just here for the fun. I want to enjoy it. If I get to learn something about myself or about a certain idea along the way, that's awesome. But I generally have not enjoyed my time on anything I'm reading, even if everyone else is like, Kelsey, that's a terrible book. And I'm like, I had so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, I have absolutely heard you go, this book is trash and I love it. But I've never heard you been like, this book is so boring, I'm struggling. Like, I think you've had like down moments in books.
Yeah.
But you're always happy to read.
Yes. Every time I've enjoyed it. I mean, I'm the first one when people ask me for a recommendation. You just did this to me the other day. You're like, oh, what was that book you just read? I'm like, who are you telling? Because I know it's not very good, but I had fun with it. No, I never have a bad time. There are definitely books that drag out for me a little bit more, but it hasn't been a bad experience, which I think is why I've been reading so much more. And I was going to talk about this eventually at some point, but a cool thing that happened to me recently is my mom has kind of gotten into reading.
That was huge.
Yes.
Because I think everyone has the opinion that they would like to read. You know, if you talk to anyone that isn't a reader and when you're the reader, I would read, but, and then you hear whatever, you know, is holding them back. Most of the time it's not knowing where to start. A lot of people also use time, but you know, your mom, I think, had an idea of what reading was, which is a lot of like maybe self-help books and stuff like that, like nonfiction.
Yeah.
And then you were like, what if you read something you could enjoy and be entertained by? And you picked up some books, you handed them off to her, and she loved them.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like I grew up in one of those families. We didn't read a ton. I was very into sports. I loved playing outside when I was a kid. Trying to get me to do a book report, not very easy. I did have a stint in high school where I was like super into Hunger Games. I was waiting for those to come out, reading like Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey, like all like the usual high school books. But my family just never really read. And if they did, it was always because they were trying to learn something. And that was their expectation, which I think is okay. They'd read autobiographies, professional development, personal development, but they thought you couldn't learn from something that was fiction or fantasy.
Yes.
So they just never read that. So I really didn't, other than those few times I dabbled. And like multiple times now, my mom's been like, I just want to stop looking at my phone in the evenings. I want to do something else. And she's like, I started reading, but I can only read a couple pages and I'm like tired or bored. And I'm like, it's because you don't read anything fun. And I said that kind of jokingly, but I sent her home with a book, which I know people who watch this are probably not going to love this book. But it was Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us. And I picked that book specifically because I feel like it's short enough and has enough emotional ties to it that it's a really easy entry book. Like I knew from what my mom likes that she could read this book and likely enjoy it. And if she doesn't want to read anything else, that's okay. But it was a great entry into it. And my mom texted me about a week after I gave her that book, and it was 11:30 at night. And she's like, I just finished this book. I can't believe it. There were actually times I literally could not put the book down. And I called her and I asked her about it. And she's like, I kept saying like, I'll end after this chapter. And then I started reading the next chapter because I had to know what happened. I'm like, see, like you can have fun. But what she also learned from that is even for things that are not necessarily like an autobiography or personal development, you can learn from fantasy fiction or even modern romance. Like for me, Colleen Hoover, I know it's under a lot of heat right now. The movies come out, but I think you can look at it and learn a lot emotionally on what you would potentially view on a situation or view on yourself. And you can take things from that. So it's a good entryway. My mom is now on Funny Story, which is pretty popular. So I'm hoping she enjoys that one.
Yeah. And you obviously started off pretty hardcore into like the romance stuff, but you've branched out since then, which we'll talk about in a little bit because I have a point to make about that. But it's a lot of people will scoff at Colleen Hoover or Emily Henry or whatever it might be. But like people don't realize that you got to start somewhere to get back in. And a lot of the times it's really straightforward things that are very popular. They allow people an excuse to read something. And there's especially with something as popular as like Colleen Hoover and for like fantasy, like Brandon Sanderson or whatever, there's a community around it and you can talk to people and it leads to conversations that aren't about your everyday mundane things that people don't really want to talk about in the first place. So I think that it's a decent place to start whenever you go with something that's more like recognizable. So I think it's really cool because I wanted you to read whenever I got back into reading, and you did read when you were a kid.
Yeah, like
Hunger
I said,
Games.
Hunger Games, Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey. Jodi Picoult was probably one of my favorite authors when I was in high school.
I don't even know who that is.
Very much like some bad event happens and there's an attorney and there's a court case. Like it's basically like all of her books. But I think back to like high school or even when I first got back into reading, you're right. I probably enjoyed a little bit more of like the romance side of things. And at a point, like you almost felt like it was embarrassing to tell people that. Like they would think that's like so weird or not cool. And then as I got more into reading and finding communities and even just following people on Instagram who like similar books, you start to just embrace what you like. And it's like, I do not care if you do not like this type of book. I love it. I'm going to recommend it to other people who I think will like it. And that's okay. We can all have different tastes, but there's no problem with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Embrace it.
I think it's also all right. Everyone's saying a hurricane glass for water. Why not? Why not spice up water?
We are having the hurricane rains.
That's true.
So it's perfect.
And Cabo Wabo, which is where this glass is from, one of my favorite places in Vegas. And I think it's closing. I don't think it's going to be there much longer. So
yeah,
it's now memorabilia. Evie loves Emily Henry, by the way.
I love Emily Henry,
which is great. And maybe I will have your mom on the podcast one day.
She might do it.
She's a lovely lady, very talkative, looks just like her too.
Yes.
Which is hilarious. Someone did ask, it was our good friend Theo, what's going on? It says, is Mrs. Nuts petite or is Jimmy 9 feet tall in reality?
So yeah, I don't know, but what's really funny is I don't pay attention to my size until we take a photo together or like take a photo with some of your friends. Then I look at it. I'm like, am I that short or are
Yes.
you that tall?
No, you're short. We took a photo with my friend Joe, who I got to see out in Chicago, which Chicago B-roll will be in my next vlog, by the way. And the picture's hilarious because one, me and Joe are bigger guys and we look like we're related. And then Kelsey is like barely visible behind like this like little like ship steering thing. You know, it's like she can't even be seen because she's so small. And yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I'm not the tallest guy in the world, but
The first time I noticed
she's
it, though,
mini.
was a picture when we were with you and Andrew.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa.
And Andrew is built like a Neanderthal. He has gigantic bones and he's like 6 foot tall and, you know, 260 pounds and just broad shouldered. So you look even more ridiculous whenever he's in the picture for sure.
And you just scrolled past it, but I did see Evie talk about one of the other Emily Henry books. Where did it go? Happy Place.
Yeah, Terrible Happy Place is my favorite. Emily Henry. It's my favorite. Wow, favorite book of the year, Evie.
Wow. So I loved Happy Place. It's definitely on my list to give to my mom. But I started with Funny Story because I legitimately read it in a single day, under 24 hours.
Britton says he sees why I married you because you're a sporty girl. What does that mean?
I played sports.
Is it like Sporty Spice from the Spice
Sporty
Girl?
Spice. I love Sporty Spice.
You're sporty. Didn't know that. Kind of sporty. I could see it.
Sports.
The first time I ever saw Kelsey, she was squatting 185 pounds in the gym. And I looked at my friend Andrew, who you all know, and I said, I'm going to marry her. I didn't know who she was. I said, I'm going to marry her as a joke. Actually, it's a quote from Joe Dirt, which is
Even
not
better.
a good movie, but kind of funny.
So funny.
But there's a quote in there, man, I'm going to marry that girl one day or something like that. And I said it to him as a joke. And then, in fact, ended up marrying her. So get you a girl who can squat 185 pounds. That's my advice to all of you out there. I know plenty of people would probably be like, what in the world are you talking about? But just trust me. A good squat, it's a good foundation. Sturdy, you know, sturdy. It's a good
Made
thing.
sense for us.
It made sense for us. That's right. That was like our big thing. We talk a lot about reading now, but back in the day, we used to just travel to gyms and stuff. And I would listen to physics nonfiction audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go listen to the authors in person.
Yes, we
make it a
did.
trip.
Yeah, we used to drive all over. It was a good time. So even back then, you know, I wasn't reading fiction, but I was reading something, and I kind of loved it and thoroughly enjoyed it. Someone wants to know what the current squat PR is. I couldn't tell you because I have terrible knees, so I don't squat as much anymore. I'm more on the leg press side of things. So.
And I don't know what mine is because I go to the gym when it's extremely busy and getting a squat rack is almost impossible. So I just do other stuff.
Yeah. You work out very, very hard. I will give you that for sure. Evie was also saying that you've been reading ACOTAR. And I wanted to bring up ACOTAR for a reason because ACOTAR gets a lot. I don't know. I'm telling you know this.
Mm-hmm.
So Kelsey watches a lot of booktube with me on the couch because I watch it on TV like a weirdo. So she is trapped in the living room with me. And if she's reading or playing with the cats or doing work or whatever, she'll passively listen. And not a lot of love for ACOTAR out there, huh?
No, people are very harsh on it. And I did read ACOTAR. I've read all that is available right now for ACOTAR. And I really enjoyed it. Like the first book, was it my favorite? No. But then as I continued to read the series, there was so much that I enjoyed. And it's sad to me when I see so much hate to it because similar to Colleen Hoover, I feel like it adds this like stop sign to people who are like, I'm trying to get into reading. I love these series. And now people are like, oh, well, you don't know anything. Like that's a terrible book. It's a terrible series. And a lot of people just relate to some of the themes in there and had so much fun with it that I don't know. I get a little sad when I see people so hard on it because you might be pushing out someone who could fall in love with more fantasy books that you like, but because they like a little bit of romance sprinkled in or they started with ACOTAR, it's like they don't belong.
Yeah, and for you, the big thing is like I've seen the dispute. Does it lead to people reading outside of it, or they just continue to insert, and I'm going to use the quotes, trash over and over and over again? But wouldn't you say it led you to fantasy and being more interested in epic fantasy?
Oh, absolutely. Because I originally came into it knowing that I liked romance side of books. Like
Mhm.
that's just where I leaned. I knew it would catch my attention. And I liked fantasy. I was never against it, but I was always afraid of those big series,
Yeah.
the large worlds. Was I going to understand what was happening? And when I read that, it was such an easy entry to it that I was like, oh, wait, if I can do this, like, why can't I read other larger series? And I realized that I didn't just like the fan or like the romance aspects. I really liked the fantasy aspects, which didn't surprise me. Like big Lord of the Rings girl over here. So it wasn't like I wasn't into fantasy, but
Legolas
reading,
fangirl, would you say?
yes, as a child,
And Aragorn?
I wanted the Legolas cutout that was at FYE. It's like that'd be so cool. My parents would not let me have that. But it did open up that door to me to trying other things.
Mhm.
And I think there are other people like that. Sure, you might get somebody who loves fantasy who reads it who goes, I think I might like romance too. I want to go into like dark romance or just like a modern romance.
Right.
But I think there's a lot more people who have used Sarah J. Maas to realize fantasy can teach you things. Fantasy can be really interesting, and it's not as scary to start some of these
Right.
epic fantasy series as people might think. So,
Yeah. I mean, I've not read it, but I know that a lot of people, the big criticism is that fantasy is just dressing on the story. And for you, you realize, even though let's just say, I'm not saying it is, but let's just say that it's cookie cutter or window dressing or whatever it is. But as you were reading it, you were finding out that you liked world building.
yeah.
And even though it's cookie cutter, it still leads you to trying other things. So now, like I know that we've talked about you reading Stormlight Archive. We
It's on my
were,
list.
yeah, that was on your list. And then you are, I mean, what, 7, 8 books in the Realm of the Elderlings?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're on Golden Fool right now, right?
Yep.
And Live Ship is your favorite trilogy.
Love live ship. But what Sarah J. Maas also taught me, like, yes, I love world building, but I also realized I'm very character driven and I can read those books where I am following a slice of life person because I get invested in both the people and the world, which then made reading like Robin Hobb feel less intimidating because some people are like, oh, like you're just following this person around. And now I'm like, that is so cool. Let me follow this person around and pretend like I'm them and just figure out where life's going to go.
A little bit of escapism.
Yeah.
Okay. There's
It's a
nothing
ton
wrong
of
with that.
fun.
Absolutely. And there's Joe. Me and Kelsey met Joe.
Hey, Joe.
In Chicago. Great guy. Gave me hot dogs. So he's an A+ Chad in our books.
Absolutely.
We had a great time, especially with the Chicago hot dogs. Oh my goodness. They were
so good.
Very good. It seems like you're a big hit, by the way. Christian is saying that we need regular couple episodes. You know, we talked about Kelsey's Corner for a long time. And I think that might actually be doable because you have very interesting things to say about books. And one of the special things about talking to you, other than you just being my wife, is that you're not in the echo chamber. You're not in the circle. You don't care what book made who's top 10, none of that. You know, you watch booktube passively through me. A lot of it's, you know, live streams for the most part. So you have a very blank canvas when you come to books. And listening to you talk about Realm of the Elderlings was different than anyone else I've ever heard read the series. And it made me actually enjoy it more because so many and this is just the nature of like having community, is like a lot of the conversations get recycled, a lot of them. And you bring a fresh perspective. So part of me would love to stick you on camera and let you talk it out and give your opinion. But I also kind of like love that you're not in the bubble. Like it's one of those things, like I selfishly don't want you in the bubble.
I'd almost need to be like halfway in the bubble. Like let me come on and ramble and then not read anything that comes after that.
Yes.
But you're right. And I think some of it is because I came from a different reading background. I don't keep up with what everyone's doing outside of like Instagram. I follow a few people who talk about different things, but I just enjoy it and I'll just randomly ask you questions and sometimes try to feel like if I'm on the right track by reading your facial expressions, but you don't give much away. So
I'm pretty good at it. I don't even say read and find out. I will literally just, and I've gotten good at this since we've been together so long. I just ignore her. So she's like, is this person going to die? And I'm just like,
and I'll just talk to myself for a few minutes, then go back to reading. But you're right. Live Ship has so far stayed my favorite series. I didn't really expect that going into it. Not a big like pirate ship person.
You like Pirates of the Caribbean though.
Yeah, but not like, oh, I loved it. I'm going to watch all the movies, super into it. It was like, that's cool. It just wasn't something I was super into. So I was like, we'll see. But I loved the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the story that was happening. It engulfed me in a way that I did not expect.
I loved when Murphy came and we talked, because Murphy has some reservations. I have some critiques of the series. You have some critiques of the trilogy. And we sat 3 people with 3 different views of the series and we talked it out, and it was wonderful. And no one called anyone dumb or said they read it wrong. And I was just like, this is so refreshing.
Yeah. No, that was awesome, because it was interesting for me coming into it, because you said, like, I don't listen to anyone else's opinions. You all hear what everyone else is thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like I could have this off the wall comment. You're like, oh, well, I can see why you'd read it that way. I'm like, and it's great.
Yeah, and also not having all of the context of like the fantasy genre. Like, you haven't read a ton of fantasy.
Mm-mm.
You have, but it's not to the amount where like I've seen it before. So I'm just saying I've seen it done better. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
no.
you're not having that experience because you're still fresh to things. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you haven't hated anything you've read so far. I always think about that. But even me, there's things I don't like about books.
Mhm.
And I talk about them, but sometimes I feel out of place in the online community because people are so strong in
Yeah,
their opinions. Part of it, I think, is that because the internet trains you to be like that.
I
Like,
agree, because when I view people who get really excited about the majority of the books that they read and they kind of just like gush about them online, they kind of get slammed, like they're fake or there's no way you could have that experience. It's like people can just be happy about the books that they read, and maybe they just don't talk about the books they didn't really enjoy. And what if they just want to talk about things that they love? I think that's okay. But I do agree. Sometimes I feel like the internet pushes you to, what are the negatives?
well, I don't even necessarily think it has to be negative. I think overly positive and overly negative. Like, it has to be one or the other.
Yeah.
Because that drives the most engagement. And I don't even think it's like a conscious thing where it's like, well, I gotta say this is the worst thing. It's just like it's the automatic thing. And you see that more on the Instagram side because you're on the Bookstagram circles.
Yes.
You pay attention to that a little bit more than me. Then you follow different creators and you'll be like, oh man, they said they like this, and woo boy, they got destroyed online.
Yeah. But and back to the Sarah J. Maas thing, I do see ACOTAR as one of those series where people either have to be like die hard, I love it, or I'm absolutely disgusted and I hate it. And people aren't allowed to just be in the middle. Like, you have to pick a side. There is no middle ground there. And that's not a great way to have a discussion.
I've enjoyed talking to you because I feel like even some of the stuff you like, I'm like, this is why I don't like this, or you'll actually sometimes you'll come to me and say, people are saying this about SJM. And then I will actually explain their position on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be, I don't even agree with it, but this is what they're trying to say. I don't know. We always just have good. It's probably why we ended up together, because we get along even when we disagree, which is always a good thing. So I don't know if that's just a regular thing for us or what, but BellTube says, Kelsey's great on camera. Hope you do more videos together.
I appreciate that.
Maybe at the end of the year, you could do a top 10 list.
I could try. What's interesting is my job requires me to do a lot of public speaking, and I'm perfectly fine public speaking. I usually like feed off the crowd though. Talking to a camera.
Some crowd work. You get some crowd work. Look, let me hear you scream.
No, but it's very different when you have people sitting directly in front of you and you're trying to teach them something.
Yes, definitely.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Also, I thought this was really funny. Joanna says her husband said that you look a little bit like Aubrey Plaza, which
I love
Aubrey Plaza. Parks
and
Rec.
What a great compliment. Love her.
That was another thing we could connect with Murphy over. She loved Parks and Rec.
I love Parks and Rec.
We never watched the last season.
I did.
Yeah, for anyone that thinks whenever I say I don't like endings or I don't care about endings that much, and you think it's like cope because I'm a big Gentleman Bastards fan and a Song of Ice and Fire fan, she can assure you, even before reading, I just simply would not finish shows because I didn't want them to be over. So I would just not watch the last season of like a lot of different shows, and Parks and Rec is one of those.
Like, you introduced me to Parks and Rec, and then I got to the end. I'm like, it's the last season. You go, I'm not watching it. And I was devastated. I had to basically watch it in a separate room because you refused.
Yeah, I didn't want to know. I'm like, I don't
want to talk about it.
No, I want them to be in Pawnee, and I want them to still be existing and just, be good to go. The Senate says, holy shit, chatting with Guts live. Maybe for Halloween, I should do chatting with Guts and dress up like Guts.
Let's do it.
You could do a good Casca.
I was like, who can I be? But
though, I don't know. Some bad things happen. Never mind. That's a bad idea. Only the Berserk fans will understand why that's a horrible idea. Britton says he's waiting for the hype train to die down for Hobb. I mean,
So here's the thing, Britton. I went into Hobb not knowing there was a hype train, really.
yes.
And I enjoyed it, and it's fantastic. I'm still liking it. So just kind of forget that there's a hype train and just give it a try if you want.
Yes, absolutely. And Mitch says he needs your 10 most overhyped series video. Mitch is the greatest troll in all of BookTube. He's my favorite. So anything he says, just know that he's not being intentional. He doesn't actually want to see that.
I could give it to you, though, if you wanted it. I could overhype any book.
I absolutely love that. Hey, Slay, thanks for the 5 spot. Very generous of you. Said, all hail Queen Kelsey.
Thank you.
Does that make me the king? I think
No.
it does.
Well,
am I the king consort?
yes.
Should I run off to an ancient burned down castle and have trippy werewood dreams with a possible woods witch named Alice Rivers?
Let's skip that part and we'll just move past that.
But what if the woods witch is like, all right, no, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Hey, Slay, thanks for the 5 spot. I appreciate that very much. And Henrik would like to know, what's Mrs. Nutt's mom reading now? So she's reading the Emily Henry book.
Yeah, funny story. She just started it. I talked to her yesterday and she said she's just a little bit into it. And we'll see. That one is interesting because there's an aspect of that book that I think my parents will laugh at just based on history.
So what's our plan to get your mother into fantasy books? Like, what's the intro? What do you send it? You send it in House and Cerulean Sea? Are we going Farseer? Are we going like what are we thinking?
I think it's ACOTAR.
You think it's ACOTAR?
I think it's Sarah J. Maas. Because if she enjoyed Colleen Hoover, she likes that emotional romance, like love story side, despite Colleen's like toxic piece that goes into it. So how do you introduce fantasy into that? We go into ACOTAR. It gradually builds you in, and then suddenly you like the character so much that you want to learn more about what's happening in the world. And that's going to be the segue. And I think I said that when I feel like she's ready, ACOTAR is the book. House in the Cerulean Sea also is a great book, but I think ACOTAR is going to be the key.
House in the Cerulean Sea was, I think, the real big pickup for you in reading. Like, you loved House in the Cerulean Sea.
Loved it. That's the first time I ever read something that was a little bit more on the cozy side. And I had zero idea what to expect from it. It was another one. I just don't look up books a lot ahead of time to see what people are reading. I'm just like, that looks funny. And somebody told me it was good. So let's try it. Loved it. Loved it so much that I talked to you into listening to it. And then I listened to it again. Not
a book that I would have ever expected to enjoy, but we had a great time. We listened to it on the way back. This is like 2 years ago now in the car. And I thought the audiobook was just outstanding. I loved it.
You know what was funny about the audiobook though?
What?
I had all these voices and images made up in my head. And then the audiobook was different. I was like, oh no. I liked my voices better.
And that shows you just how important an audiobook performance can be.
Yes. Which I was not an audiobook person. But what has happened this year?
You started?
I started listening to audiobooks.
Wait a second. I just remembered this. Also, shouts out to Gavin. Gavin, hoping to have you on soon, said, no, it's a great idea. It can be early Guts and Casca before bad things happen. Guts kind of just starts off with bad things happening, but I'm willing to take those scars. I can do that. Did you read Ohio by Stephen Markley?
I listened to Ohio.
You did, didn't you?
I did.
I forgot about this. So Ohio by Stephen Markley is very much like that small town. I talked about in a wrap up. You guys can go look at it. My friend, I heard of it recommended from Better Than Food. And then I recommended it to my friend Kev, who lives in Ohio. I also live in that Appalachian area. So it's kind of all the same in a lot of ways. And it ended up being one of Kev's favorite books. Like, he loved it. And I listened to it. And I told Andrew and Kelsey, I said, you guys have got to listen or read this book because it is so where we grew up at. And I just now remember that you read it.
I think that's the first audiobook I listened to.
I think it was.
Oh, I might actually like audiobooks. I loved that book. And it's one that I don't talk about much. And I like go through my Goodreads and I see it on there. And it reminds me like, oh, wow. I love that. And I'd probably re-listen to it now because listening to the audiobook the first time, I wasn't super into audiobooks. I'm not sure I was retained it as much. I want to re-listen to it. Maybe I will.
Maybe you should. I don't know. He also has another book that I really want to try, but I hear it's like super duper dense. It's like a climate change, science fiction, apocalyptic type thing, but it bounces around. and like Kev's town in Ohio is mentioned.
Oh,
Kev says we should give your mom Gardens of the Moon. I don't agree with that at all. Though it would be really funny to hand someone Gardens of the Moon that is literally just like getting back in the reading and just see what happens, like without any expectations of what it should be. Maybe that'd be interesting. I'm definitely going to have you read Malazan. Like it's happening. Yeah. Oh, it's definitely happening. I think you would like it. I think.
One other thing I want to mention about audiobooks, just because this is really funny. Thinking of audiobooks that I like, I've kind of leaned towards a certain type of book that I'll listen to on audio. And one of the next books you had me read was actually Beartown. And I listened to that on audio. And I loved it, thought it was great. Loved it so much that we were in Barnes & Noble one day. And I saw a book that looked exactly like it. And I was so confused. I was like, why is this the same book? And you're like, well, there's more books. I was like, oh, amazing. So I got that book on audio, listened to it, went to put it on my Goodreads, and was like, oh, I read a book 3 without reading a book 2.
Yes. She ended up reading book 3 after reading Beartown, just skipped the whole book. And I was like, how does that happen? Like, that is such a foreign concept. Like, to me, that's something that like my grandmother would do. Like, I'd be like, oh, grandma didn't know, people who aren't paying attention, but I'm like, you have the internet.
Okay. In my defense, again, I don't look up books. The third book is written more like a standalone way in the future. So it didn't feel disconnected. I didn't know there was a second book. So my expectation is I'm just reading a book that followed up years in the future. I could still read the second and I will. But man, it was embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed. My dad was reading Dresden, and I think I gave him the first 3 or 4 books, maybe first 5 books. And I got back home, and I came in, and he shows me a book. He's like, hey, can I read this? Does it matter? Like, if it's in order? And it was Battleground, which is the latest Dresden book. I'm like, there's about 12 books you're missing in between that. Like, do not read that. And I don't know if he did. I have to talk to him whenever I go back home. But he was like making his way through Dresden. And my favorite thing, do you remember what he said about Harry Dresden when we were at the dinner table? It's like my favorite thing he ever said.
I think so.
He said, man, that Harry Dresden, I didn't say anything to him. I just gave him the books and I'm reading. First thing he says, he goes, that Harry Dresden's a bit of a pervert, isn't he? And I was like, yep, sure is.
And I was surprised. But your dad was loving reading those books.
Yeah, he also he was very affected by Farseer. He was very he loves Philip Chase. He likes Philip more than me, I think. He was like, that Philip Chase, you can tell he knows what he's talking about. I'm like, thanks, Dad. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Sindhant, I hope I'm not saying that wrong. If I am, I apologize. I'm just dumb. So just wanted to say I finished Reaper's Gale and I was more excited to watch the spoiler discussion than I was actually to complete the book itself. The Malazan discussions got me into your channel. Thank you so much. That's actually one of my favorite discussions from Malazan, because Reaper's Gale, when I finished it, I was like, okay, this is like easily my least favorite Malazan book. I still liked it, but after that discussion, I think at the end, I say something to the effect, I'm like, I think I love this book and I didn't realize it. And that actually ended up being the case. That book increased dramatically in enjoyment after discussing it, which I think is exactly what happened with me and you talking about like Live Ship and stuff. Mm-hmm. Who's your favorite character in Live Ship? I think Ryan asked that earlier and I meant to get to it.
Althea.
That I knew that answer, but I figured the people should probably get a bit of a bite. And also Bitter Draft, first live CWN. There's a couple of you out there. I try to get to all of you. I'm glad that you're all here. I love when people show up. Like 99% of the views on these things obviously come after the fact, but I love when people are actually getting to attend it for the first time because there's a bit of energy. You know?
Do you think Althea is a lot of people's favorite character, or that's like a not common answer?
I can't say much without spoilers, but I think that her storyline probably is the most contentious because of things. So I would say that it's probably either people's like least favorite or favorite. I think there's like not much in between on her. I would imagine. Now, I'm sure with millions of people reading the books that like, of course, there's going to be some people who don't like her at all or think she's boring or whatever. But I know I was very attached to that character. And I knew when you started reading it, and I didn't say anything, but I knew you were going to love it.
I was just wondering, is anyone that I've heard that's read it so far, mainly through you, she's not brought up as the favorite character, and that like she is like my dead set, like my favorite character in that series. Yeah. Maybe that will change in the future. I don't think so. There's something about her personality, what she's going for. I'm like, I'm here for it. I was just curious.
Yeah, Kev says I should put you on Dandelion Dynasty. He hates Ken Liu and Dandelion Dynasty, and I'm wondering if he's just wanting to see what a perspective would be outside of the bubble. That would be fair. When I read Dandelion Dynasty, I didn't know. I don't think I knew anybody that had like loved it. Actually, in fact, the only person I think I had read it, I'm trying to remember. There was someone that read it and hated it, and I was like, oh, maybe I won't like it. And then I ended up reading it, and I really liked it. I know for a fact there's at least 2 characters in Dandelion Dynasty that you would love. But I'd be very curious to see how you feel, especially about the back 2 books. Henrik is asking, what's the next big series after Rob and Hobb? Because I mean, you're golden full. Like you're getting to the back half now. So what do you think? I don't know this answer, by the way.
I still have a lot of Rob and Hobb to go, but I guess since I already started that, maybe that doesn't count. I think it's a Song of Ice and Fire because we talked about it and I've wanted to try it, but you're like, maybe you should do one series at a time. But you love it so much, I have to try it.
You think you could do it?
Yeah.
Think you can handle it?
Why not?
What's your expectation of it?
Enjoyment.
Why?
I mean, you talk about it and how much you love it, but really, I think it comes down to I just like characters and reading about like what the journey is going to lead them to. I like different perspectives and hearing about multiple things going on at once that aren't even related. And I feel like that's all you talk about with it.
Yes.
So it's like, I'm here for it. Oh, we have a cat.
We have a cat. I usually shut the door, but I didn't want the cats to be alone. Kelsey usually keeps them company. So Denver's debut on Chatting with Nuts is right now. You saw his big furry butt. Everyone say hello to Denver. Denver, would you like to say anything to the audience? Or are you just going to knock over the camera stand? He's going to knock.
Yeah,
come here.
Chew on
come here, bud. Come here. You guys are getting the whole family. This is Big Bad Denver. We call him Denver Nugget, even though I don't like the Nuggets and don't watch the NBA much anymore. Hey, we do it live. We're just kind of letting it roll. My only problem with him being in here is that he's going to stare into that very bright light.
He sure is.
He, for some reason, he does that. I would love for you to love A Song of Ice and Fire.
I think the other thing, the reason I want to try it is for someone who's like getting into fantasy. People that talk about how much you're probably going to like it, but it's also becomes one of those feared series where it's going to be like so complicated or people are going to find it boring. Like there's no way. I'm here for it. I'm here for the journey. It's time.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I think Daenerys is a character that you're going to relate with a lot because of imposter syndrome being a thing and being on an island by yourself because, you know, you came out of your program and we left home and you were in a whole new, like, and that was really your first, I mean, you had jobs, but like your first real job. And I think Daenerys being on such a not alone, I don't want to say lonely, but like on such a different ground. Like I could see you identifying with her journey a good bit. Also, the female characters are just pretty fantastic overall.
I mean, I'm sure this isn't a surprise. I love reading female characters who are just like paving their own path. And it's not always easy. And they go through some really hard things and they make decisions that a lot of people don't agree with. And sometimes I feel like because they're the complete counter to what they would expect maybe a male character to do in that case. Yeah. And I love to see it done, especially when it's done well. Yeah. And that's why I really enjoyed Live Ship.
Hey, and there's even some romance in there for you. Just saying.
See?
Hey, Murphy, what's up? She said, hi, Kelsey. Also, hi, Jimmy. I guess that's very rude of you, but would you like to say anything to Murphy?
Hi, Murphy. You're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, please come see us again. we miss you.
You're fantastic.
Yes, we miss you. We have to see each other again before the end of the year. I am begging you. So Derry says, Kelsey, really? Althea? More than Paragon?
Yes, a lot more than Paragon.
Okay. So Heavenly Demon says, hey, Jimmy, nice to catch you live. I know you probably won't make more content because of what happened, but are you and Andrew still reading One Piece? If so, I hope you are still enjoying the series. Yes, albeit very slowly. No plans to make more videos at this point, but it's, you know, never say never type deal. But I'm just kind of going at it at my own pace. And I still contend that I think One Piece, to the point where I'm at, is still like one of my favorite stories and also some of my favorite world building ever. So I still love One Piece greatly. And also I'm very thankful for the people who have reached out and have been so super kind about it. So I appreciate you. Yeah, we'll be getting her to read A Song of Ice and Fire without a doubt. I think that it'll be slow going, but the fact that you aren't afraid to like jump out of a series and come back to it, I think is perfectly acceptable. Now, I will say this. I'm going to farm you for content when it comes to Song of Ice and Fire, because I just want to talk about it more on the channel. And you going through it for the first time, I mean, it's going to make it.
I will be a completely outside the box perspective.
Yes.
I think that's what makes it consumable for me, though, is I don't feel like I have to read it all in one go. I'm in no rush.
No, and it's not finished, and it never will be, most likely. So I think that that takes off a lot of the pressure. How do you feel about endings? Like, I know you watched the last season of Parks and Rec, but like, how much, for instance, like ACOTAR, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've read everything. It's over? Question mark.
So the first 3 books, it's over for that perspective. And then there's additional books that come from different perspectives. It's not technically done, but it could be. I think when it comes to endings, and I probably got this from you, because when we first met and we'd like watch shows, I hated endings that didn't feel like endings. I was like, what happened? Like, we didn't tie everything up. Everything's not in this beautiful box with a bow. And I hated it. But then as I've gotten into reading, I don't mind. And I almost sometimes enjoy the endings that are not fully tied closed.
Oh, I prefer way more than a tied up ending. I do like, someone said it's chatting with cat butts, and that's pretty funny, actually. And their name's Meow Cat. That's just incredible.
That's amazing.
If I'm being honest. I'm a little bit behind in the chat. I'm trying to catch up and highlight some stuff. If I skip over your chat, just know there's a chance I'm still going to highlight it. I go through and star them now, because when you have like, 150 to 200 people, it gets a little bit hectic. So just be patient with me as we go through it. But I like open-ending endings way more than everything being tied up. I think there's some expectation to wrap up certain things depending on what story you're telling.
Yeah.
But I like feeling like it's a place and time of you dropping in, especially in fantasy, like, into the world, because the world, if done well, should feel like it's existing outside of the narrative. Do you feel like that with ACOTAR or no?
Yes, I agree. Some things have to be finished. Like, there's a piece of the story that you need some closure on, but I like the thought that there's still more going on, because rather that means that it would ever lead to more content or not, it allows you to continue to think about it and think of alternative perspectives of what the ending could have been.
Yeah.
So I like that way more now. But man, when we first were together, I wanted the pretty box and a bow.
I'd like to think I expanded your taste a little bit, maybe just a bit.
You did. Just a bit.
Murphy says she misses us both too, by the way. Well, good. Come back.
Yes.
Please. Guns of the Dawn. Everyone's talking about Guns of the Dawn. I keep hearing about it. I don't know why, but I need to read it. I need to read more Tchaikovsky in general.
What is your favorite companion?
Animal companion in all of fantasy. Why is it Night Eyes?
Yeah. Love Night Eyes.
Is it your favorite?
What other animal companions do I know?
That's what I'm thinking. There might not be much competition for you. Until...
If it's not books, I loved Marie from the Aristocats. And that was my first favorite animal companion.
Brian was asking me, Jimmy, have you caught up with all of Dresden? I have not. I took a pretty hard pause, I think, after Proving Guilty. It's the one with the weird Molly thing at the end. I really lost a lot of steam. But I was going to wait and not tell anyone, but I think I'm going to be picking Dresden back up. I've been kind of getting the bug. I mean, obviously Murphy really likes it. And she has a lot of the same reservations I do about the series, but can still enjoy it, which gives me hope. And then my friend Garrick also just has me feeling like it's worth reading on, at least to discuss it. So, and also I like Jim Butcher's writing in most cases. Like, I think he has the strongest openings of books out of anybody. Like, that dude knows how to hook you. Like, he really does. So I will be reading Dresden again. I am going to unpause it. Now, when will I read White Knight? I don't know. I'm not sure. And yes, my dad did read Farseer, and he absolutely loved it. He loved it. I think my dad likes a lot of the coming of age stuff. Adam says, Jimmy, I'm halfway through Last Argument of Kings. Have you done any chats on it, on First Law in general? I've actually done very little First Law content. That's another series I'd love for you to read. More so the sequels. Maybe we'll see. I don't know if you'll love First Law, but you would like the sequels. I'm positive about that. But I don't have many chats on it because First Law is one of those things I read and absolutely adored it, and I loved it. And I've talked about it with people in private and stuff. I just don't feel like I have much to add to that conversation. So I never made those videos. It's probably one of the series that I like the most, that I talk about the least. And maybe I have to kind of dig into that and figure out why that is. Part of me feels like maybe it's because First Law doesn't have as much roundness to it as a lot of other series, but maybe I'm wrong about that. That's a hunch I feel. Like I only feel like I can talk about like one aspect of the series, and I just don't want to repeat ad nauseum what people talk about, characters this and characters that. So I don't have a ton of First Law content on the channel, but I did love Last Argument of Kings. Before They Are Hanged is my favorite of the original trilogy, though. Great question. If you guys could wit with Denver, what would we say? Which, for those who don't know, wit is a magic in Realm of the Underlings where you can kind of like communicate with animals. What would you say to Denver? You get one shot, one thing.
One?
Yes.
I talk to Denver every day.
Yes, but what if you could really talk to Denver, like in his brain?
I just want to know how much I love him.
That is super adorable. That's very
I love
heartfelt.
Denver. He's amazing.
He's my best friend.
He's been through our entire relationship.
Yep, 10 years.
Mhm.
He's been around for as long as we've been together, pretty much. And he has been in 3 different states and 4 or 5 different houses. And he's been through whenever I read Malazan for the first time. Like he's been around for everything, you know? Yeah. I would probably ask him why he feels it's necessary to bite my chin at night when I'm sleeping. That would probably be what I would wit to him and be like, could you just not do that? That'd be cool.
That's a great point. He repeatedly taps my head in the morning.
He
I'd
does.
maybe ask that.
He does.
But you know what his answer would be?
What?
I want to eat.
Well, he shouldn't eat a whole bowl of food while we're sleeping. It's absolutely ridiculous, to be honest. So, A Song of Ice and Fire, are you still interested in Stormlight Archive? Because book 5's coming out.
Yeah.
You got 10 years to catch up because we're not going to get another Stormlight book for like 8 to 10 years. So you have time, but you're interested in it?
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
the way you've sold it, I'm willing to give it a try.
Yeah, I think that you will actually like Stormlight quite a bit. I think especially with me kind of giving you a little bit of nudges like after you finish the books about lore and stuff, I think you'd really like it because like I don't click with Sanderson's writing all the time. Actually, I just read the pre-release. The chapters are coming out for Lost in Roshar. I read the prologue and I'm not going to spoil anything, so don't worry, folks. But my first immediate reaction to it was twofold. It was one, man, Sanderson writes to me as if I'm really stupid and can't figure things out. And I don't mean about lore. I mean, just like even characterization. Like, man, he just spells everything out for you. There is no chance you can miss it as far as characterization goes. And then the second part of this was that I was like, oh my God, I am hyped. And I was like, I love this. So it has like, it's readable. It's very straightforward. I think it appeals to the masses, but it's also honestly just really sick. Like there's a lot of cool stuff in there. And when you start seeing the pieces coming together, or if you figure out a piece of like the lore puzzle, it's very rewarding. So like, it was weird. I was like, oh, yep. I still confirm that like, I don't click with Sanderson as a writer all that much, but also the story he is telling me is undeniably interesting. And I feel like you've said that about Sarah J. Maas at times too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because like, I remember, I think maybe it was Instagram or something, but you saw something where people were pointing out like the quirks of her writing and things that she repeats and that she does ad nauseum. And you were like, oh yeah, that's all true. Like she absolutely, you know, what is it? Some of them, they're like the eye twitches or something, or like the lip curl.
The lip curl, growling.
Yeah.
Using certain like words in place of like typical derogatory words. But then it's used so much, you kind of get the ick.
Yeah, like you start to notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're like, but I love the story and I'm interested in the characters.
I can get past this.
And I think that that's how I kind of feel about Stormlight. Like I am undeniably in on the overall plot of it.
And what's cool is because I, for better or for worse, do jump around all over the place. I can start both of them relatively quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Might take me a while to get through them.
Yeah, and they're huge books, so you should take breaks, to be honest with you. Which is another nice thing is because you read like romance and other things, you get a lot of standalone books.
Oh, yeah, and they're great palate cleansers. Like I read something a little bit heavier, more in depth, and then I can just jump over, read something quick, light, either like funny romance, modern romance, dark romance, doesn't matter. But I just have to read one book and I don't have to worry about these huge series. I can just enjoy it, close it, move back to my series.
Yeah. And then you just pick up where you left off. Ryan saying he's nervous for Wind and Truth. And then I see Majestic saying he's struggling through Rhythm of War. He's read way better writers. So have I. And I was also nervous for Wind and Truth. I did not love Rhythm of War, but I'm telling you, that prologue got me stoked. Key says, I suspect Mrs. Nuts would like Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I think you would love Earthsea. Love it.
Is it very long?
No.
Great, I'll read it.
There's a few books, and they're all very different in tone. And I think Tahanu you would absolutely adore. It's a very angry book from a female perspective, and I think you would really like it. But also, just in general, I think the Earthsea vibes, a bit cozy, but also plays with like Taoism of like your like light and dark sides, and how everyone has that conflict within themselves, whether they know it or not, or whether they're willing to face it. And facing it's actually like the bravest thing you could do. All the while the world is being filled out around it. It's very interesting. And then the second book has like a gothic feel to it in a very contained setting where you don't really know like what you're getting yourself into, and it takes a complete shift from book one. I think you would.
Ooh, I'm in. That sounds amazing.
And they're this big. They're short.
Oh, great.
Super duper short.
I'm in.
Yeah, I think you would really like it.
I like anything that digs into what happens to people emotionally, especially if it's like an undertone and there's more things being built around it. I love that reflection.
Yeah, I think that book 2 and Hanu for sure you would enjoy. It kind of feels a little younger, but I think that would be okay. Brian says, has Kelsey read any science fiction recently to know if she likes it? So I don't know. Have you read any science fiction? Does Scythe count? Remember that YA series? You read the first 2. You loved book 1, and then
I loved book 1, and then
yeah, you didn't like the rest of it.
No, and I think it was just
Does that
read
count,
book
though?
1 and I enjoyed it. I don't think
Is it sci-fi?
I don't feel like
Is it in our world?
No,
Is it a secondary world?
I think.
Well.
I can't remember. I didn't I don't know. I don't know how I feel about sci-fi. So other than I guess Scythe, unless I looked at my book list, I don't think I've read anything. I don't generally gravitate towards sci-fi in other media. But I don't think that means I wouldn't like reading it. But I would say I have more hesitations about if I would enjoy that.
I mean, science fiction is so broad.
Right. So it depends.
Like, for instance, Claire and the Sun is definitely like a speculative fiction sci-fi book, in my opinion. Like, it toes that line. If you don't get hung up on like being a snob or like semantics, and you would love it.
Okay.
It's by Kazuo Ishiguro, which I have to retrain how to say his name because I figured I was saying it wrong for 3 months. No one told me. So I like that's a book I think you would enjoy, and I would classify that as sci-fi.
Maybe that's it. It's picking the right sci-fi for me, at least to start, because it's like my Sarah J. Maas. I need something that dabbles it in so I can realize where I need to go next.
Yes. And with you, your taste is so open and you're so moldable and shapeable. Like, you're willing to give anything a shot, which is like my favorite thing about you. So like, I think that you'll find something I like for sure.
Which is funny when you like, I don't know. I look at like the list I've read this year. I'm like, I'm all over the place.
You know what I'd love for you to read actually?
What?
Brandon Sanderson's Skyward series, because I've never read it, but I know people who detest Brandon Sanderson as a human being, and they're like, but Skyward is actually pretty great. Like, they hate all of his other stuff. They're like, he's terrible. Skyward, pretty good. And it's a YA book, teen protagonist in space, young girl. You might like it.
Okay.
I want you to try it and then tell me if it's good.
Try it. I struggle a little bit more with YA now.
Also, Matt over there on Bend the Knee, my good friend and co-host, saying nice shirt because I got it with him when we were there for his wedding at the legendary Powell's bookstore. This stream is brought to you by Bend the Knee. Bend the Knee, folks, and subscribe and like and all that good stuff. Derry says, after listening to booktube, mostly AP, I discovered a book I used to call Favor was written terribly, but I love the idea of the story. Yeah, I mean, I am very apprehensive to say things are written terribly because there's so many aspects to the craft of writing, and I know AP knows a lot more than me, and that's fine. But like, I'm always a bit suspect whenever people say something would be objectively terrible or bad. I think the more important thing is if you get something out of it. Like, you know, like a book can be written super harshly, but it can still change your life. And I think that is what, like, we get a little lost in the sauce every now and then. Reading should be primarily something that you're enjoying doing. And I think as long as you're doing that, no matter the vehicle of getting you there, like whether or not it's the most beautiful prose in the world. For instance, like actually Ishiguro is not super poetic. He can be, but he's actually really like straightforward and smooth. And I've seen some people be like, oh, wow, you always talk about his writing, but it's so like, you know, straightforward. And I'm like, I know, but he seems to understand when a sentence needs to be long, when it needs to be short, what word to choose to end on. Like, he just seems to always vibe with me, where he can take a very like mundane plot and use language, plain language, to build almost an aura around whatever I'm reading, whatever section of the story it is. So even if it is about, for instance, a butler taking a few days off, I find that there's all this stuff around the words that he's actually writing down. And that is the complex piece of his stuff. So some people would probably look at him and say, he's decent. There's nothing special about it, but I find something special in it. So
something about the connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you can 100% see faults in writing and still love the thing. I saw someone earlier say they didn't like the way Daenerys is handled in a Game of Thrones. Guess what? I agree with you. I mean, George R. R. Martin's my favorite author of all time. Song of Ice and Fire is my favorite series of all time. And I still know that there are faults in the series. George has things that he does super well and better than some other people. And there's things that I don't like as much. But you point to a perfect author, and I don't think that they exist. So, living in that happy medium where we can acknowledge things and still enjoy it, there's this weird thing. Like, I feel like the word cope is thrown around so often, and this is a tangent from me, really, but it's like someone will point something out and you're like, actually, I agree with you. I think that is a negative, but I still really love this thing, like Sarah J. Maas's writing or something like that. And people will be like, oh, that's cope. Like, you just can't admit that it's bad then. And it's like, no, I can, as an adult, I can look at something and have a complex relationship with it. And that's the same thing with our friends and our family. Like, it's not all good. Like, it's never all good, but you can see through that. And that's where like the strengths really shine through. Because for you, it paints a very round picture of whatever you're talking. This is beyond just books. This is art in general. And I would even say relationships.
I mean, that goes right back to saying, we always see that perspective. You have to really love something or really hate it. And we miss everything that happens in the middle. And I think there's more things in the middle than will ever be on the extreme of each side. Yeah.
It seems rational, but like human beings, we are irrational. I get irrational all the time. I had a bad day at golf, and I was like, I'm quitting.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna go back to jiu-jitsu. And she's like, okay,
see you tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah, see you tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm being completely irrational, but that's how we are as humans. So I'm not hard on people about it, but like, it's just a different way of thinking about it. Is like, it is 100% possible to have a complex relationship with something that you love. And also, this is way far away from what Derry was even talking about, but it's something that's been on my mind lately, just from watching critiques of things online. I'm just like, I feel like the art of that is almost a parody of what it once was at this point. So Thornell says, speaking of Ursula, did anyone read The Lathe of Heaven? Is it good? I like it, but I know people who hate it. If you like Philip K. Dick, I think it's in the same vein as that. It's kind of her book paying homage to him. I love it. Don't expect it to be neat and tidy by the end. There's a lot of thinking going on there, and it's up there with my favorite Le Guin. I don't know if it is. I'd have to really think about that. It'd be hard to beat Tahanu or Tombs of Atuin for me. So
Ryan said Scythe counts. So then
yes,
because I love the premise of Scythe. I really liked the first book. I think I just didn't get to the second book in time, and I started changing as a reader. And then I was like, I want to read other stuff. But man, the premise, loved it.
Yeah, I mean, the premise sounds amazing to me, but seeing you fall off after like 2 and 3, I was like, well, maybe. It's also YA, so like, I don't know if it's something I think that was love.
More the reason. Yeah, I started realizing I was just not enjoying as much YA as I used to.
Yeah, which is fine. That again, it could be a vehicle to get you to something else. Here we go. I like this comment. So my partner Savannah loved Exaltations as an intro sci-fi book, short stories with romance and mind-blowingness. So I actually like Story of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang. It's a collection of short stories, and they're very like thought-driven. Like, it's basically like an idea, real quick, you're in and you're out. I feel like that would be a great place for you to start, because you could read a story every other day and get through it in a month still.
So, we're going to have to like eventually end this and then write out all the books that I need to read and make me a plan.
Somebody start compiling the list. I will thank you greatly. I don't even remember all the ones that we've gotten to this point. I just know that you committed to A Song of Ice and Fire, and I'm just thinking of all the videos I can make with you in my head. So
here we go.
Belltube says, I'd ask Denver to read the first 40 pages of Cloud Atlas. Yeah, maybe so. Bone Clocks. You should read Bone Clocks.
So I've actually been interested in Bone Clocks.
Cloud Atlas. I don't know.
Me either.
I don't really recommend that book to people very often. Like, I gotta really be confident because I don't want people to read it and just hate it, and that happens all the time. But Bone Clocks, I feel extraordinarily confident that you would love it. Like, I'm 100% positive. I think you would. In fact, I'd like to see you knock it up to TBR. I'd like to see it hit to the top of the TBR.
Is it next?
It might be next. It might be next. But you're trying to read Iron Flame by Rebecca Yaros or whoever, because we're going to go to the Library of Congress in 2 weeks, and they do a big event. I've never even heard of it, but a bunch of authors come in. So I'm actually going to be going and seeing James S.A. Corey, aka Ty Franck, and Daniel Abraham. I'm going to get a book signed by them and listen to a speech that they have, or a talk or whatever. And then you are going to be standing in line probably for 5.5 hours to get Iron Flame signed.
In Fourth Wing.
Yep. Yeah. So what's up with Fourth Wing? Like, what is it? Like, what's the deal?
So I think it got a lot of hype because it captured a lot of what people were missing after they finished ACOTAR. It gave them that additional segue into additional fantasy. I don't think Fourth Wing is a perfect book. There were certainly aspects of it that I was like, not great for me. But overall, I really enjoyed the story of what was happening, which allowed me to get past some of the character flaws that I just personally didn't like.
Yeah.
But I think it just gave people another book that blended two areas that people really like. Romantasy is getting very popular, and I'm here for that too.
Yeah, I mean, you're eating good.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
No,
and having a female presence in the fantasy community, I welcome that too, because like for a long time there was just stuff that wasn't interesting your general person that found themselves looking for maybe a bit of romance or something else. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing at all, and I don't think it's a net negative for fantasy. But I feel like when you finish Fourth Wing, it was one of those times where you're like, it's kind of trash.
Oh yeah,
like more so than like ACOTAR. Would you agree with that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But maybe it's because it's not like I got to see ACOTAR as the full package. And if I would have just read the first book of ACOTAR and stopped there, I would have had similar feelings. But what I will tell you, that just thinking of like female characters and strength in women, something that became a trend after Fourth Wing that I loved was women getting into weightlifting so they could keep their seat on a dragon. And that was the joke. And I thought that was the coolest thing.
I kind of love
that.
Oh,
it's the power of women, and how in that book that woman didn't feel like she was strong enough to do it, and all of the male counterparts were just picking up with ease, so she had to work really hard. And like, it was a huge trend of women posting workout videos like, I'm gonna keep my seat on my dragon. I'm like,
you know what?
Yes,
that's such a net positive. That's such a net positive.
Yes,
I love that.
Me too. So that's cool. Incredible. I forgot about that until we started talking about it. Loved it. For those reasons.
I just remember when you finished Fourth Wing, I was like, how was it? And I could feel that you were like, you were along for the ride, but you weren't like, like, I know when you finish a book, like, you're like, it was so good. You'll slam it shut and be like, man, that was just so good. And I'll hear that like 5 times over the next 24 hours, just randomly. Like, we'll be eating dinner and she'll just go, man, that book was good. And I don't think I ever heard you say that about Fourth Wing.
No. But I also feel like I may have tried to force Fourth Wing, and I don't want to call it FOMO, but a little bit of this happened with ACOTAR too, is I felt like I had to speed through it so things didn't get spoiled for me. So I'm not sure I was actually ready to jump back into that type of book, and then I just did. And maybe this is me doing it with Iron Flame as well, because I just want to read it, but we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll have a completely different perspective. I think Iron Flame might have a little bit of better reviews on Goodreads. Not that that means anything, but we'll see.
I am not sure. All I know is I didn't realize that book had like a million plus reviews. Like, I didn't realize how big it was.
Oh, it's huge.
Like, I knew it was big, but like, I didn't realize how big.
It really took off.
It's absurdly huge. And our local bookstore that we love actually does midnight releases for it and events for it and stuff. And, I mean, it's not for me, but it's pretty cool. Mike K says the Butler book could be my book of the year. Thank you for the recommendation. That means a ton to me. Thank you so much. And this is interesting. Jimmy, you do BJJ. Me too. I've been training for 7 years in Ryan Hall. Yeah, I've been training for 7 or 8 years, but I'm kind of coming to an end with it, at least for now, just because I'm burnout. But I have always wanted to visit Ryan Hall's Academy, and it is certainly doable. So very interesting. What belt are you? Very curious. I am a purple belt myself. Did you read Sword of Kaigen?
No, but when you read it, I instantly wanted to read it. And I don't remember why I didn't, but that's been on my
Oh, yeah.
list
That one,
for the longest time.
no doubt. No doubt. It'll be an all-timer for you. Like,
Yeah.
no doubt at all. That's a flawed book. There's
I
a
must
huge
have-
chunk of it that's ridiculously stupid.
I must have been in the middle of something when you were reading it because I remember wanting to read that really bad and it
Yeah.
just got buried behind everything else. I'm like, I want to read that
Bro,
too.
I'm literally watching Denver stare into this blue light. You're gonna blind yourself, dude. What are you doing?
Come hang out with us.
Come here. Yeah, so Sword of Kaigen,
Yeah, I want to read that.
home run with you because there's Avatar The Last Airbender.
Oh, I
Thanks.
love
And you love
Avatar.
Avatar The Last Airbender.
Yeah,
That's
I
one
do.
I still need to get to. I don't know what in the world's wrong with me, but for some reason I just can never seem to actually get myself to sit down and watch any TV shows. Like I sat down to watch Shogun.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Not because it's not good. I just suck at watching television shows unless if it is something brutal in a documentary format that's going to make me angry. For some reason, I love that.
Yes.
But TV shows, man, I'm so bad at them.
We're both bad at them, which doesn't help.
Yeah, you watched Game of Thrones TV show,
Mhm.
and then you just stopped at season 4, which isn't a bad place
Well,
to
you
stop.
told me
to
to.
be fair.
But
No,
I
no.
typically-
I said season 6.
Oh.
I said season 6. I said the last episode of season 6, you could just stop. But honestly, for you, I don't think it would matter, actually. Murphy says, Corey is offended that you haven't watched Avatar The Last Airbender yet. I know. I need to do it. But right now, my extra time for extra media is being done rereading Attack on Titan alongside of you, Murphy. So you are actually taking up time that I could use for Avatar The Last Airbender. So it's actually your fault, I would say. And this is like the 4th time I've read Attack on Titan, I think. Ancient Aliens. Funny enough, there's a bit of Ancient Aliens going on in one of the books I'm reading right now, which is very interesting. Says, I'm a competitive blue belt and I hear you. It takes a toll on your body big time. Currently rehabbing a torn hamstring, doing PT while listening to Malazan discussion. Bro, good luck. I mean, hamstring is brutal, especially in jiu-jitsu. Did you do it in jiu-jitsu? For me, man, and I'm not going to make this a jiu-jitsu podcast, but like I just stopped showing up mentally and I realized that I was just super bored. Like I was so bored. And it wasn't because I'm so good. It was just like, I just didn't care anymore, you know? And I hate being a bad training partner to people. So I just said, that's it. I said, that's it for now. Maybe I'll go back one day. Because she, of course, had to remind me that I don't always have to be black and white about things. I don't have to just quit and never do it again. I could always go back. It's something I struggle with a lot. Could be autism, perhaps.
But we work through it.
We try. You remind me.
Mm-hmm.
Murray says no regrets. Me either. Attack on Titan's awesome. So yeah, I think for sci-fi, there's so many ways that we could get you where we could get you started. Red Rising is like sci-fantasy, definitely not as much into like the traditional sci-fi that you'll hear about, but I do think Red Rising would be pretty interesting.
Heard
for
a lot
you.
of good things.
Yeah,
about it.
book 1 is related to Hunger Games quite a bit. It's kind of a cliche at this point of people mentioning it, but like they improve over time. I haven't read the sequels yet, but I mean, Red Rising is definitely one of those things that's very popular. Like, I don't think it would take a lot for you to get into it at all.
I mean, I've heard great things about it, and people that I follow who generally like things that I do have seemed to enjoy that book.
Yeah. Do you find yourself more attracted to books that feature female protagonists, like main characters? It doesn't matter that much to you?
It doesn't matter to the point where I wouldn't read something without a female protagonist. I mean, I love Fitz. It's a fantastic follow, but I probably do have a bias in wanting to try a lot of things with female protagonists just because I am here for the representation of it. And I think that's another way to get people into fantasy.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, it's like,
definitely.
I feel represented, or you realize you can see things in yourself and these people, but on a grander scale, rather they're riding dragons or doing whatever they're doing. There's a lot of internal work that can come from it, but I just like seeing women represented in all media. So
yeah, I mean, it's easy to put yourself in the
Mhm.
shoes of. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that that's even necessarily a controversial thing to say. I think
Yeah.
it's just it's easier.
And I also think with fantasy, what makes it interesting is more common than not, at least in what I've read. Women in fantasy are really strong and like get to do powerful things, to where, not in all, but a lot of like the romance books I read, that's not always the case. Like it's a more standard version of what people expect women to be in relationships and occupations. So then you jump into fantasy and there can be a queen instead of a king.
Yes. Yes, there can be. And also, one of the things that I always take note of is like there's like a trope of like Brienne of Tarth, which is a great character, but like that a woman almost has to be manly to be powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Daenerys is like a really good example of someone that's still feminine, right? And very ladylike, however, is still powerful in her own right. Not saying that one's right or wrong. I mean, there's a large variety of ways to be. But I think that fantasy, especially nowadays, has a lot more opportunity to be flexible and have a wider nuance with female characters.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're seeing that in the books that you read.
Oh, yeah. And I think you're right. A lot of times it was that idea that if a woman was going to be strong in a book, they had to have more masculine traits. But I feel like we are leaning really strongly into this idea that any person can be feminine and strong. You can wear a dress and be powerful, or you can decide to wear pants and never wear a dress and still be a powerful woman, and you get to do it however you'd like.
The pantsuit,
really cool.
The pantsuit is where it's at.
And I think that's what's interesting, though, is that it finally gives women both perspective and allows them to make the choice instead of feeling like you either have to be really feminine or you have to be masculine. You can embrace both of those. I think I relate with that because I was always into sports. I was athletic. I went into weightlifting. And for a while, those weren't traditionally feminine themes of what people would do. Now it is. Weightlifting for women is huge.
I mean, how many
times I've been told I have linebacker shoulders?
No, how many times have ladies come up to you and go, "Hey, I want to get into working out. Like, I don't want to be as big as you."
Oh, a lot.
Which is the rudest thing. I've seen people do it to her, and I'm always like, "You're not going to like what's coming back. You messed up. You didn't even know, but you messed up big time."
No, but that's not to say that it has to be that way. I like following all different types of characters, but I do highly enjoy women.
Yeah. Another M.L. Wong book, by the way, Blood Over Brighthaven, is really good. Not sure when the trade release is coming out, but I read the self-pub version, or trad, I'm sorry, version when it came out. Kelsey should read that. I mean, I haven't read that, but based on, I would like you to read sort of Kaigen first. But I think just the way she writes is something that you're going to really enjoy. And there are lots of strong characters in Red Rising. Absolutely. Gavin is saying that Evie's asking the important questions. So Evie says, I think it's safe assumption to ask, Kelsey, who's your favorite Spice Girl?
So, I mean, we kind of joked that it was Sporty Spice, but it's probably Sporty Spice. When I was younger, I loved Baby Spice, but I just couldn't relate to Baby Spice. So I'm going to go with Sporty.
I like that.
Spice Girls.
Hobo Jai says, my bro-in-law told his wife she is sturdy. I literally said that to her at the beginning of the stream. Didn't go over well, and I never let him forget it when we were together. I think sturdy's that's a great compliment.
You've always jokingly called me sturdy.
Who doesn't want to be sturdy? I want to be sturdy. So it's funny that you mentioned it's a great book called Combat Codes that has BJJ in it. I championed that book. I did the cover reveal for book 2, I think. I did a review for Combat Codes in a gi. I don't know if it's still up on the channel. And Alexander Darwin was on Chatting with Nuts a few months back. So I know all about Combat Codes. I'm still good friends with Alexander. I haven't talked to him in a bit, though. I should probably get him to talk me out of quitting jiu-jitsu. That'd probably be a good idea. And the answer to this question is CJI, and I will not elaborate, but it's obviously CJI. I saw somebody say something that I thought was funny, and I can't remember where I saw it. But Annette says, Kelsey, have you ever read any Naomi Novik? I feel like you would love Spinning Silver or Tamare.
So I've picked up Spinning Silver multiple times.
I have it.
You do?
I think it's right there.
Oh, I feel like I pick it up every time we're in Barnes & Noble and I just look at it.
The cover's sick.
I'm like, but I buy so many books and I look at it and think about it. But I haven't actually had anyone recommend it to me. I don't know anybody who's read it. I did not know that we owned it. So
yeah, we have it because that was a cover buy and also is like economist type thing. Like she's like, Spinning Silver. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I read His Majesty's Dragon and I didn't like it that much. I gave it like a 3 out of 5, but I thought the writing was pretty good. Like I didn't have a problem with Naomi Novik's writing. Like I would give her another shot for sure. Sporty Spice had the best voice.
I agree.
Great Great answer, says Gavin. Sturdy is a killer compliment. I feel like sturdy is like a 2020s compliment. Like, I don't think you could get away with that in 2010s, but 2020s,
Now
girls are out here being sturdy, you know?
keeping our dragon seat.
We're keeping the dragon seat. You got to get in there and get the adductors. I want to see everybody on the adductors. You know, you can come off the seat a little bit if you feel it a little bit more, but really we'd like to see it down in the saddle. It's probably a better place to be. You're going to really need a lot of adduction to grip onto that dragon. Marco says, what are your favorite female characters, Mrs. Nuts, across all media?
Oh no, I should have thought about this.
Across all media? I already know who the answer is.
You do? Okay, you might have a different answer. I'm thinking of the first. I mean, this is not going to be the answer.
All mediums.
I know, and now I don't know. But what's interesting is I think the first female character that I was ever obsessed with, and I was like, this is it. I think it started this path for me is Mulan.
That was mine.
Okay,
yeah. It was like the easiest one ever.
Yeah. Number one, Mulan was it for me as a child. It has never went away. And I think that's where a lot of my strength in women started.
I also believe that that's one of the reasons why you might like Sword of Kaigen, because it has similar vibes to Mulan. It's not identical by any means, like nowhere near, but I feel like you would like it.
Well, that's why I read She Who Became the Sun.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And that was a really interesting read. Wouldn't say it was
you didn't love
favorite book at the time, just based on how it was written, but loved the theme, really liked the overall story and the world that I was getting to live in for a little bit.
Yes, I think I remember I think you wanted a little bit more from it, but you know what the problem is sometimes like media is supposed to represent a different type of media. It just leaves you wanting the other thing.
Oh yeah, I think it was sold to me too much of being Mulan, and that's what I expected, and that hindered my enjoyment.
That happens with sequels too, though. You know, Matrix is a good example of this. Like, I love Matrix. I like the sequels. Don't tell anybody. But when I watch Matrix 2 and 3, I always just go, I really just want to watch Matrix 1 again. And I haven't rewatched them in 20 years because of that. But at the time when they released, I didn't hate them. But it was more like, oh, I should have just watched the original.
Yeah.
It's kind of how the Mulan live action is too. It's just like, it was good.
It was.
I
think I might have liked it more than most people. But again, I actually, because I had heard it's so different from the original animated Mulan, went into it with a different expectation that I loved it.
Yes. That was the weird thing. It's like, you're the biggest Mulan fan I know. We even have Mulan Funko Pops back there for you. And
you bought me,
and everyone hated the live action. Yeah. And you came out and you're like, that was fun.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't ruin the original.
No.
And it's just more Mulan.
Exactly. It let me see Mulan in a little bit of a different light. It lost some characters that I loved, but I would watch it again. Absolutely.
Yes. Kel says, besides the gym, what is the best way to find love? I'm going to quote my good friend Garrick here and say, just go into the romantasy section and look confused.
Honestly, that is great advice.
Yeah, you will at least get a date out of that. There is no doubt in my mind. Also, whenever I sold computers at Best Buy, I did pretty well. You know, I'd like be like, oh, hey, here's your new computer. Hope everything works out for you. Hey, you know, if you have any issues though, you know, I know you didn't get the Geek Squad protection, but if you need anything, here's my number. If you have any trouble with the antivirus, Kaspersky, whatever it might be, WebRoot, you give me a call and we'll figure it out.
Wow.
Oh, shooting fish in a barrel. Shooting fish in a barrel. Also, sometimes I would get called and it was just an IT thing. And I'd be like, oh, I just got suckered into free labor.
Well,
this sucks.
You offered. You did not try any of that on me. I did not get offered free IT support.
No, you were in a bodybuilding show.
And
you needed help with your back development.
Back workouts.
And I had made a lot of progress in my back. And you were like, can you help me? And I said, sure. And I think we worked out together for almost like 6 months to a year before I even considered.
Were friends who worked out together.
Yeah. And then I fed you pancakes and that was a wrap. It was over at that point.
And a box with a bow.
A box with a bow?
Yeah, it's like packaged up. It was good.
Was it? I don't even remember this.
No, not literally. The relationship.
Oh, I thought you meant the pancakes. I was like, what are you talking about?
No, they were just great pancakes.
They were great pancakes. Shout out to Mama Nuts. Shout out to Mama Nuts. Giving out the secrets to the banger pancakes. Kelsey, read Alana the Lioness by Tamper Pierce. Girl disguised herself as a boy to become a knight. Sounds right up your alley.
I'm in.
Marco says, goated. Malama's badass. Let's get down to business. That's why you love watching Alan's videos.
Yes.
It's true.
There's like a rockish metal rendition of that song, and I love it.
Really?
Yeah, I listen to it at the gym all the time.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. I'll show it to you later.
Your playlist is weird. Tony, the Robin Hobb talk has already happened. It was in the first hour. You can go check that out. She has read Robin Hobb and certainly enjoys it quite a bit. Evie, Matrix Resurrection is my favorite Matrix movie. Don't at me. That is an insane take, but you know what? I respect that. I respect that. Hey, Colin, how's it going? Bookborn showing up for, not for me ever, but shows up for Mrs. Nuts for Kelsey. That
For me, my corner.
You know what you could do?
What?
Since you're going to read a Song of Ice and Fire next,
Yeah,
you could read a Song of Ice and Fire and talk about the characters, especially the female characters, with Bookborn, because she just read it for the first time.
I would definitely do that.
And she has the best opinions because she's not tainted by the TV show at all.
I've watched the TV show.
You have, but I feel like you weren't paying attention. So
Ow.
I feel like you only paid attention whenever I'd be next to you, be like, you need to pay attention to this scene.
Potentially.
I
really enjoyed it. I just wasn't as invested, but I think that's going to make the book better for me.
Well, everything past where you were is very different.
Great.
Very, very different and much better in the books, in my opinion. So Evie also has Mulan Funko Pops.
They're amazing.
That is funny. The live action Mulan is a great martial arts adaptation. I was entertained. You know, wasn't the worst. A bookborn is never early or late, but arrives precisely when she means to. And her husband follows it up with debatable.
That's amazing.
The timing on that is excellent. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie. You guys work together very, very well. This is so wild. All my favorite booktubers on the same chat. Bookborn Murphy, I've been devouring your Malazan reviews as I'm going through the series. Yeah, I like to think that this is kind of like a little corner of this where everyone can kind of show up and enjoy. And who better to bring people together than the Friday Night Delight? Huh? Right?
Right.
Okay, good. Don't make me look bad.
I didn't know you want me to follow up with anything. I was agreeing.
Pancakes are cash money.
They are.
Okay, this is a good question. Let's go. Favorite day, push, pull, or legs?
I have a...
Go ahead.
I don't know. My strongest lift is bench. So I like it just because it's easy for me.
Yeah.
But I think pull days are amazing because they're great for your back. And I think a strong back is everything.
Pull.
But I like legs.
Yeah, I like the legs whenever my body didn't hurt all the time.
Pull.
I prefer pull.
Pull's my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually hate push days. I'm just fine with them.
This is a good Sir Ezra the Watchful. My God. Ez, how are you doing, dude? How are you doing? We need to get you back on bend the knee, my friend. Has Mrs. Nuts read The Lord of the Rings?
No.
It's okay. But
I
you
have not
love
read
the
them.
movies.
Oh, loved the movies. Still.
Yes.
Watch them every year.
So, would you read the books?
I don't know. I think I would consider it. I mean, yeah, I would try anything. My only concern is I feel like sometimes people feel like the way they are written is slower.
Oh, yeah. You can be walking. There's a lot of trees. There's like 8 pages of trees.
And I would do it if I'm reading another book at the same time.
I
Like
think
something I could like slowly work myself
you
through.
should do the audio because Andy Serkis, the guy who does Gollum, does the audiobooks and he does voices for everyone. And it's amazing.
Oh,
it's incredible.
I would do an audiobook.
My friend Ez here, though. Ez, I saw you're in some production. You're going to be playing Samwise. And I said, who is this handsome devil? And lo and behold, it was Ez. Ez, that profile picture of you is stunning. My goodness.
Call my Siamese cat Smeagol.
Yes,
So,
because she
Lord of the Rings.
She is always trying to kill me and attack my head. So we got a couple of different answers for the push-pull legs. We got push, Bookborn. Do you work out? Can we be fitness friends too? That'd be great. Murphy legs. I knew Murphy's would be legs. I knew it. Especially hip thrusts. Hip thrusts seem to be
Great
very
workout.
pop. Yeah, you love them too.
Mhm.
The right answer is pull. Kev, I agree. Tyler, welcome to the chat. There's just something about pulling a dumbbell off the floor that just feels really good. It does. It just feels
I
excellent.
agree.
You know, you never see any Chads in fantasy with small lats. Like they all have big, bat wing backs. It's a requirement. The movies of Lord of the Rings. What?
Nothing.
Side eyeing me. What are you
No,
doing?
nothing.
You're embarrassing me
had
in
a
front of my
comment.
friends.
No, I mean that was very accurate for ACOTAR. But everyone talks about Wingspan, but for a different reason.
Wait, in what regard? Is this like an innuendo?
Yeah, what's your wingspan equal?
Well, like, oh, okay. PG-13 moment here. All right. See, this is why I can't read ACOTAR. Sounds very explicit. By the way, folks, you guys have got to hear my thoughts about Ash, the Lost History by Mary Gentle, this book I'm reading for the reading vlog. It is the most unhinged thing I have ever read, and no one, like, it's very obscure. There's no audiobooks that I know of. I'll talk about in the vlog, but this book, for all intents and purposes, is literally one of the most batshit things I have ever read. And I'm only like 200 pages into it, but it's about like a female mercenary leader in the 1400s that has been forgotten to history. And the book is written like a manuscript that someone has found because the book before it was published was destroyed. So Mary Gentle is writing about a Radcliffe, who's an author, who is sending this manuscript to a literary agent. And the interludes are the emails back and forth about the manuscript with the agent. And so that's already crazy. It is so explicit. I was floored because this person, I think Mary Gentle is like a medievalist, like PhD or something like this. So I was expecting it to be like really by the book. No, so many F words dropped and some of the most absurd romance scenes I have ever read. Like this is the romantasy that people have forgotten. Like Kushiel's Dart, I was like, okay, the BDSM stuff, like it's a little bit adult. No. Mary Gentle was on one. Like
Is it like dark romance or just very explicit?
Real dark. And I don't like all of it. So the reading vlog, I'm like trying to keep it non-spoiler, but like I want to go into the details because some of it's so absurd that I'm like, I feel like I have to say what's happening, but I can't spoil it. I'll probably just spoil it for you.
Yeah.
Maybe not though. You might, I don't know. I have a problem with the first part of it. And I say it in the vlog because it's super early, but then something else happened in part 2. And I'm like, is this on page? Like, I feel like I'm reading like, crusty old fantasy author from like the 70s writing something, but no, it's Mary Gentle from the year 2000. And she is just going in.
Do you like dark romance?
What does that mean? Like, give me an example.
It's debatable. I don't know if you've read anything.
Like problematic relationships. Is that what you're saying? Like, I
no.
do not like enemies to lovers.
Oh, I love it.
I hate bickering in books. Unless if the bickering is banter, which is funny, I can't. My guess is probably not. Okay. I am a hypocrite though, because I love Jaime Lannister and Brienne of Tarth, and they bicker back and forth, but the banter is solid. And I already like each of the characters without that element. So I think it's really important for that kind of thing, for it to work for me. I have to care about the characters individually.
Yeah, I don't think that dark romance is typically a little bit more toxic.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I will. I don't think I've read enough dark romance to put a stamp on it to say I haven't. Okay. And I am going to read ACOTAR. So
that's not dark.
It's not?
No, like
really?
Haunting Adeline is dark. It's a little more like cat and mouse. People wear masks.
Interesting.
Someone's like abducted, but then you like your abductor type deal.
Okay.
That falls into the dark romance.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know.
But it's a range. I don't read much dark romance, but I was just curious.
Well, now I want to know. I'm going to read some Spice next year. That's what's going to happen. That's going to go on the reading vlog. Sir Ezra says, dude, I miss you guys. Also, Kelsey is like the nicest person in the world. Down to chat a Song of Ice and Fire. I've got a nice Maelor Targaryen theory. Ez, come on, bro. Come on next week. We can make this happen. We had a great time with Ez and Lottie out at Sir Matt's wedding. It was an absolute pleasure. And I'm still waiting on you two to come visit me, Ez. Still waiting. Need you to be here. House of Leaves is absolutely wild and one that I would love. I would love to. You are so valid, Jimmy. I hate enemies to lovers. It's the worst trope. Besides Jamie and so you agree. Okay, cool. Jamie and Brienne aren't romantic banter though, so it's okay. Yeah, that's coming from like almost a position of like posturing. Like they're both trying to prove that they're the real knights when in reality the world perceives them both as the same thing, which is Kingslayer, which is fascinating. And for many reasons. I could talk about Jamie and Brienne for 3 hours easily. Jimmy likes some good Rainwild romance. I did not, but I think you're going to like Rainwilds.
You've said that already.
Yeah, I think you're going to like it because I like it more in retrospect than I did at the time of reading it. It's still by far my least favorite. And like, I wouldn't say I particularly like it all that much, but there's a lot of really great stuff in there. And I think you were going to be a little bit more into the elements that I wasn't into. I think maybe not. Maybe you'll feel differently, but I think you'll be happy with the change.
I mean, I think even in live ships, like the courting aspect that was happening I liked it.
I think Thymara might be something that you enjoy. Kevin says Haunting Analyze, the one John said was the worst thing he's ever read. I think it was Ben as well.
I've never read it.
Yes.
That's just the most common one I feel like I hear people relate to as like your entry to dark romance.
Lovers to Enemies, Samwise, I'm a little bit more into because I think we've all had relationships fall apart. And there is some sense of foreboding of wanting things to be what they once were, but you know it can never go back. And I think that that's a really real feeling. Like I haven't started out hating someone and then falling in love with them. That has never happened to me. So maybe it's my limited experience. Have you?
No.
Yeah.
But I don't need to. I love. And it's really fun to watch people who just don't get along.
Yeah,
maybe they get forced proximity. People hate that too.
Do you think it's because you and I don't fight? So like you need some added toxicity. Like you're like, well, I got to fight with somebody, so I'll just fight with these characters. Like, do you think that's part of it?
No, because I want them to love each other, and that's the part I'm excited about.
You're cheering for them.
Yeah.
Okay. I can understand that. Ezra says Lottie just heard the invite. She said this fall, so down. Hey, literally anytime.
Yes.
Literally. Hey, we're great hosts. I think personally. I think. I'll brag on myself a little bit. I think we're a pretty good host. Murphy can either confirm or deny that claim. I would hope that we are. Evie says, Kelsey, ever think you'll read classics? If so, I recommend Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, or Emma as a starting point. It would be cool if we read them together.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I want to read Jane Austen. I've never read Jane Austen, but like, I feel like I would love it. But I think you reading it along with me would probably get me motivated. I by the way, I'm 100% going to reread A Song of Ice and Fire.
With me?
Oh, without a doubt. It's not even a question.
I absolutely think I would read classics. Now that I am more full force back into reading, I'm more open to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, we're going to Ireland next month and we're going to be doing Game of Thrones tours because they filmed a lot of the show there. And I was thinking maybe I'll do A3 read of a Game of Thrones reading vlog in Ireland.
Can I just read it too?
Yeah, well, that would be it. We did the vlog together.
Let's do it.
Oh my God. 10K views coming in. People would absolutely love that. Good point. The dark romance in Book of the New Sun was pretty good. Our protagonist cannibalizes one of his loves.
That's dark romance, I'd say.
Kelsey has not read Lolita, but she read My Dark Vanessa.
Yeah.
And that was a book that we had a great conversation about. And we both thought it was a very important book and an amazing book as well. So, you don't shy away from, I would say, the stuff that's a little bit harder to read, not in difficulty level, but in content. It was pretty.
No, I think
it was rough.
I like reading those things, not because I like to hear about terrible things.
Right.
Yeah. But I think there's very important things to look at and reflect on and get different perspectives of something you've probably already have your mind made up on how you feel about things.
Yeah.
And you get a completely different perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that there's a lot of worth in that. And that's one of the examples of fiction being able to flex its power beyond entertainment and beyond the genre or the medium or whatever and affect somebody. And sometimes you need it to be fictional to speak to people and to step out of it. And My Dark Vanessa is a great example because My Dark Vanessa is not easy to comprehend because every aspect of it is difficult. Like, you would think, okay, victim good, bad guy bad, which is true, but sometimes even the victim does things that are hard to wrestle with.
Yeah,
because it's a very complex situation.
It's like they have very complex feelings, and they don't always react how you expect them to.
Yeah, and you're in
and
an
how you think
alternate
should happen.
different mindset because you're being manipulated.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to understand how to hold someone accountable. It's I don't know. It's really great read. Murph says, can't confirm about us being good hosts. I'm moving into their guest room next week. Denver will be thrilled.
Yes.
You will have to definitely share the room with him though, because that is his room.
It is.
You guys should come to Worldcon in Seattle next year. I did not know it was in Seattle, but I literally guarantee you I will be there.
Yes.
100% guaranteed. Because I was going to go to Worldcon this year, but it just didn't end up working out. It was a little bit too complicated. But if it's in America, and especially in Seattle, which is the number one city we want to visit that we haven't visited, you can pretty much guarantee that the Nuts duo is going to be there. All right.
We're going.
I don't have a catchphrase yet. I'll work on it.
I don't know. Think about it.
Murphy says a Jane Austen buddy read between the two of you would be so much fun. Maybe that's it. Maybe the vlogs need to be both of us. Who knows? Jane Austen is really good, and I'm not a romance person at all. Bookborn hates romance, confirmed. I'd watch you guys buddy reading A Song of Ice and Fire in Ireland. Please make it happen. I think that has to happen.
Oh, yeah. Now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, well, it was all, I had it in my mind, especially for me doing it. I was going to include you, but I needed to see how you performed tonight. Like, this was a tryout. And I'm not over the top with your performance so far. Like, if I'm being completely honest, but like, it's not bad.
At least I'm not starting from like zero.
I'm kidding.
We'll get better.
I'm kidding. You're
I
fine.
know.
You're fine. You actually drove those bookshelf videos, those live streams.
Did I? I feel like I barely remember them.
I remember being exhausted, and if you hadn't filtered the chat, I would have never gotten through with it. But I am super duper interested in the idea of a vlog with us. Taylor says, I'd love to see what Kelsey you think of Boy Parts.
I did want to read that after you finished it.
So I think Andrew read Boy Parts. Yes, Andrew read Boy Parts, my friend that was on the show.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, dude, this book is absolutely out of control. He's like, is there more books like this? And I was like, let me tell you all about hot girl fiction. Also, there was someone at my work that was like, My Year of Rest Relaxation. Have you guys ever heard of it? And I like went off. I was like, oh my God, I love this book. You read it, right?
No.
You haven't read My Year of Rest Relaxation?
No, it was
Boy Parts?
No.
You haven't read either of them?
No. And I'm not wondering why. I guess because I read My Dark Vanessa and then
Oh, no, these are different.
And then I
types
read
of
some
books.
very questionable trash books.
Oh my God. You would love Boy Parts. You would like both of them very much. Tyler says, has Mrs. Nuts read Stoner? She has not, but she should.
I listened to a portion of that though in the car in the beginning.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. The audiobook is very good. Brian asks, can Kelsey take a photo of Jimmy herding sheep in Ireland somewhere? I will ride sheep if I get the opportunity and pet a dire wolf.
Yeah.
No, you call me fat. It's very rude.
No, just herd the sheep. Why do you have to ride a sheep?
Listen, don't question the methods. Like you got to trust the process. I'm going to have shears.
Now, what?
Oh yeah. I'm making a vest. It's going to be out of this world.
Why are you making a vest?
Why not? I'm going to Ireland. I need some souvenir. I plan on stealing a lot of things out of StoryTube's house. Like, I'm going to rob them blind.
What does that have to do with having a sheep's vest?
I can say this because I know they're asleep because they're in Ireland. I want a sheep's vest. Big deal. Samwise says, did you get Mrs. Nuts to read Blood Meridian, bro? One day.
This is just making me feel like I have a lot of things to read.
Blood Meridian's not one I'm really thinking that you should read. But you did listen to some of The Road with me in the car.
I listened to almost all of it.
Yeah. And you loved it.
I missed like the first 2 chapters.
But you loved it.
I just committed. Oh, I loved it. Yeah. I forgot about that too until I was scrolling through books that I've read. I was like, oh, that was fantastic.
I think Kelsey may like Legends and Lattes, or maybe I'm projecting because I loved it.
I loved Legends and Lattes. And did I listen to that on audio too?
Yes.
I think I did. It was so much fun. I didn't go into it with much expectations because I liked House in Cerulean Sea, so I knew I liked a little bit cozy.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried it was going to be too cozy. It wasn't. I loved it.
No, you did. You really enjoyed it. And then I think you want to read the sequel and I don't.
Yeah. They had a local book club about Legends and Lattes, and I couldn't make it. And I was very disappointed.
Series that aren't supposed to have sequels, when they get sequels, I'm turned off by it.
Colleen Hoover did that, in my opinion.
I don't like it. It's the same thing with Children of Time. I believe that was supposed to be a standalone. I believe. And then the publisher was like, hey, this did really well. Make more. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they're good, but it just turns me off. I don't know. I don't know. Zach, this is huge news. He says, Robin Hobb was at Emerald City Comic Con this year, so I'm pretty sure she'll be at Worldcon. And also, George R. R. Martin usually goes to Worldcon.
I was just looking at Robin Hobb's website to see where she was going to be next.
If you think I will not run into George R. R. Martin if he's there, or Robin Hobb, you're out of your mind. I am 100% going to do that.
I'm scheming. Let's go.
Kev says you need to read Your Rest and Relaxation Boy Parts ASAP. You really do.
Okay.
They're absolutely unhinged. T-Baggett says, Mrs. Nuts bro dude arc incoming? I think so. Key, Child of God would be a better fit. So Key, I know you bring up Child of God. You should read Pop 1280. Pop 1280 is kind of like Child of God, but way better. You should check it out. I think you would like it if you enjoyed reading. I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but if you got something out of Child of God, then I think that Pop 1280 might be up your alley. So if that's for anybody, if you read Child of God, you should check out Pop 1280. I think it's even better. Jimmy, have you seen the Assassin's Apprentice graphic novels? I have. They're pretty cool, actually. Bookborn, how do I convince Martin that I'm actually a true fan who deserves an arc of WoW, even though I'm 20 years late to the fandom? Bookborn, if you get an arc of Winds of Winter and I don't, I will commit. Never mind. I can't say that word on YouTube. I don't know. I'll punch myself in the face. I almost went way dark on that.
I noticed.
I will paint these walls red. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Send me the ebook copy in an email.
Here we go.
I don't even know if I'd want a pre-release of Winds of Winter. I said if it ever comes out, I will get it on release day. I will head out into the woods and I will be disconnected for about a week. I will literally be in an Airbnb cabin, no internet, nothing. I'll do a vlog, and that'll probably be the end of me online.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've always talked about just going out into a cabin to read it, which is interesting to me. I could see that being your exit from booktube.
Well, I for multiple reasons. One, also Bookborn, thank you. That's very, very sweet of you. JK, wish you know how many important people that exist before me. That's just a fun dream. So I would almost want to wait because I feel as if one, like the release day hype would be amazing. It would be midnight release. It would be one of the biggest releases of all time, which would be absolutely amazing. Yeah, midnight release party. Like I want to be a part of that. So I would be down with this. But for me, two reasons. One, I feel like that's kind of, the channel starting because I was waiting for Winds of Winter, wanted to find another series like this. Like that's why I started it all. But also, I think the discourse around it will be absolutely miserable because it's been so long. No matter what he does, someone's gonna be like, well, it wasn't worth that wait.
Yeah.
And that's annoying. But also there's so many people who are entrenched in theories and headcanon that like, if he does something that doesn't confirm their really weird theory that doesn't actually impact the narrative, people are just going to turn on it immediately and be like, oh, he can't write anymore. I already get frustrated with how people talk about his recent works, Fire and Blood and stuff. I think that will break me. I also think that discourse around, and here's the problem. It's not any of you or even the booktube corner. Everyone's fairly awesome. This is not that type of release. This is a release where everyone will, you know what I mean? We're going to be getting a lot of strangers, and that's cool. I love having new people around, but there's a lot of people that are going to be coming from a point of, they don't read a lot, and that's cool. But those are the people who love to shout things like bad writing and character assassination. And I just think that it's so polarizing that it would just be taxing. It would be very taxing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that ended up being my exit from online media. I really wouldn't. Now, with that said, I would not just blindly love this thing. I would read it and take it for what it is. But I'd wait to read that thing. I hate when people damn things or like, it's fine to be excited about something or pessimistic even, but so many people have their mind made up before. And I think they're literally people just waiting on this book to come out so they can do that reaction. I think it'd be tough. But hey, who knows? Maybe no one knew would ever actually come to my channel and it would be amazing and I'd be happy. Because if it just stayed the way it was, I would be thrilled. Sir Ezra says, I'm going to lose my mind when Winds of Winter comes out. I can't imagine that we will be very comprehensible in the group chat. I imagine we will be losing our minds. It would be amazing. Slowly Red, you can join me in Oblivion, dude. I literally almost emailed you this week to check up on you because Belltube, my friend, was talking about the best mustache on BookTube being Tom Orange. And I said, I gave him the old Stone Cold Steve Austin. I said, the best mustache in the game has always and will always be Slowly Read. Slowly Read is the absolute GOAT when it comes to R. Scott Baker, grimdark in general, and facial hair. And also just being a real dude. Just being.
You did actually say that out loud too.
I did.
Yep.
I literally Brian, you were streaming and I disagreed with you. I said, no. Slowly Read. And I said, I need to send him an email. So I was going to email you this week. Dude, it is awesome to see you. It is awesome. I literally had a comment on one of the Baker discussions we did the other day. Or maybe it was a different video, but someone was like, where can I get more? And I was like, dude, just go watch Slowly Read videos. Like, he's literally the GOAT when it comes to Baker. The GOAT of best of all time. So as you can tell, dude, I'm really excited to see you. With that, no pressure to come back. I totally get it. I totally get the appeal of being in Oblivion. And I know that you do some really cool stuff outside of the book stuff too, which is dope. So that just made my whole week, dude. I'm so happy to see Mark. That is absolutely terrific. Yes, Slowly Read is back. He probably just wanted to like pop in and I'm just blowing up his spot. It's so rude of me. Did you hit Kelsey with the stunner? That's actually how we did our vows. I gave her the old boot to the stomach, hit her with the stunner, ref slid in 1, 2, 3, and that's how we were married. Mm-hmm. Good to see you too, man. Very, very good to see you. And if you ever want to come chat with Nuts, you just let me know, dude. It'd be awesome. I'll put the explicit content banner up and we'll just go to town, dude. It'll be amazing. Slowly Read is also the Mark Lawrence GOAT. Maybe it'll be someone who can finally convince me to read his books. I'm just kidding, Mark. I know you're a big fan of the channel. I'm just joking. I'm just kidding around. So what are you reading right now at this very moment?
So I'm listening to Golden Fool.
Golden Fool.
I'm reading Iron Flame just so I can have that done.
Yes.
I made that quick switch. What was supposed to be my next book now? I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but it was something I was excited about. And then you started reading Iron Flame and I was disappointed in you.
Know.
I'm just kidding. I want you to read whatever you want. I can't remember what it was though.
I was thinking about today because we were going to talk about it and now it's gone from my brain. I was going to read When the Moon Hatched, which
that's a romantasy series, right?
It is.
These covers and titles are so sick, and I'm in Books A Million, and I'm like, what is this series? And she's like, oh, I know that all about that. And I was like, oh, it's romantasy, isn't it? She said yes, and that's why I want to try it. Like their marketing is.
It's great. So I got that. I was going to start reading it. And funny enough, a person I follow on Instagram was doing a like read along with people through the Fable app. I was like, I'll try that. Like it was broken out by chapters per week. Tell me why on week 2, everyone's on chapter 50. And I'm like, we're supposed to be on chapter 4. So I just quit.
You have learned the valuable lesson that buddy reads are a sham unless you set very strict parameters and stick to them. All right.
It was the host. The host was like,
it happens
sorry,
all the time.
I'm all the way ahead. And I'm like, never mind. So I gave up. I'm still going to read it. I just didn't need to read it at that moment.
I'm telling you, buddy reads and read-alongs have to be very specific. And like, for instance, I'm reading Claire and the Sun with Murphy and Joanna. We're doing about 20, 30 pages a day. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal experience. Phenomenal experience. But there are people, they might fall in love with the book. Mm-hmm. Hard to fault someone in that.
Yeah.
Claire and the Sun, I think I speak for all 3 of us that are reading it right now. I think we all want to like binge it. Mm-hmm. But we are taking, and also the book is really good to be broken up. But like, I understand that need. So yes. I'm a little bit more forgiving about that. What I don't like is when someone reads 100 pages ahead of you or finishes the book on week 2 when you're supposed to be halfway through and they go, yeah, it's all right. No. And you're just like, yeah, all right, I just won't finish this thing, I guess. Like, I'll just put it down. It's not a big deal, I guess. Drives me wild, which is great for us because me and you can read, like, for instance, Game of Thrones at whatever pace we want. Because one, you're not in a rush. I have read it a zillion times, so I'm good to go. The question is, do we start it before we go to Ireland? So we're in the deep of it. You know what I mean?
I think we do.
No, you got to fit it into your schedule. I don't know how I'm going to fit
I'll
it
move everything around. I mean, maybe we don't. Maybe I need to give myself a head start.
Actually, no, I want to read it along with you, but I can also probably do better. Like I can just read more than I do right now.
We could also just read it in Ireland. We don't have to start ahead.
We'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. We'll get the semantics down, So Alan is somewhere cheering right now. And Alan literally appears as, what am I cheering for?
That's amazing.
Knowing Alan, he's like, you know darn well you're not going to tell me what I'm cheering for. There's no chance. There is no chance. Mitch says, why wasn't Alan invited to this read along? Dude, if Alan wants to reread Game of Thrones with me and Kelsey, we would welcome him. I will fly him to Ireland with me if that means he can reread a Game of Thrones. I would be so down. I got Southwest points. We'll make it work.
Absolutely.
Yes. Claire and the Sun is so good. Everyone's so excited to see Alan. I feel like I haven't seen Alan in a while. Him. We've been wanting to go down and see him and Atticus.
Yes.
But I said, Alan, I can come down for a week with this work. He said, I'm kind of busy, dude.
Ouch.
Kind of gave me the old kayfabe, kind of put me off. So hopefully I can get down there. I actually was looking today at flights, but I had to stay for a week. It's a long time. I don't know if he'd like me after that. So
you can babysit.
Alan says to come visit. I will literally book a trip and I will come for an entire week and I will babysit. I did not say that fathead. Hey, I actually have a fat head. It's very, very hurtful. Alan, also update us on the audiobook. How's it going? How's the Way of a Dan audiobook going? Is there any other book that you've been curious about that you've heard me talk about or your booktube talk about because you listen sometimes? Like, is there something that's on the peripheral that like maybe you're not sure? Maybe you need even pitched on it. Maybe you need sold on it.
I feel like there is, but now I can't think of it.
It's hard to be put on the spot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
not everyone
so
can
many
do this.
books. I'm like, oh, thanks.
Well, no, it's tough. I mean, they get you except the cream rises to the top, as Macho Man would say.
Part of it's because we have so many books.
Oh, you think we have too many books?
I didn't say too many. I said we have so many.
Oh no, we have too many.
And I'm like, oh, I want to read that. And then I walk to the next bookshelf. I'm like, maybe that. And that's the problem.
But
100%.
There
was a book we recently talked about that I was supposed to start reading, and I have
Bone Clocks is really high on the list. Like very, very high. But I think we would probably be better if we did Game of Thrones first. I think people would be more excited about that. Alan says, also, I've emerged to report that that the audio recording is done. That is breaking news. The Library of Alexandria has finished The Way of a Dan audiobook by Philip Chase. My goodness. Congratulations. It's been a new experience for the Library of Alexandria. We have so many people who are excited to hear it, not just because Alan's doing it, but because people want to support Philip. And to break that news here is humongous for this community, and we are super excited about it. I cannot wait to hear a roundup of how you feel about it and how the process went. So we need to get Alan back on soon. You haven't been on enough episodes, right? I don't think he has been.
No.
It's only been like 12. So we probably should get it back on. Celebratory bloomin' onions. Someone say Beowulf 3 times and some Phil hasn't been to a chatting nuts in a while. I think he hates me now. Probably because I gave him crap for being pretentious at some point. I would imagine that's probably what actually happened.
Other than A Game of Thrones and Bone Clocks, is there any book that you would like to see me read this year?
Man, that's a good question.
We've talked about a lot of books. I said I want to read a lot. I don't know if I can get to all.
You know what book I would love for you to read, actually?
What?
And this could be an October read. Pet Sematary.
Oh, I read Pet Sematary.
What?
Yeah, as a kid. My best friend's mom loved Stephen King, and we'd randomly read books, and they told me to pick one, and I wasn't super into reading, but I was like, I like animals. So I read Pet Sematary.
Well, how did you feel about that as a child?
Traumatized.
That's probably why we get along. That makes sense now. We're both damaged.
I mean, I really liked it.
What? Like, yeah, what a wild book to read as a kid. I mean,
I don't know who said that was okay, but we did.
Alan says, hilariously, Pet Sematary is one of the only King I haven't read. Honestly, at this point, Alan, I wouldn't read it. It is, I mean, I love it. I think it's his best book possibly, but like, it is tough.
I think it's the only one I've actually read.
Yeah, you haven't read many. You should read 11/22/63. I think you would also really like that, and the romance in it. I think you would actually.
I think
you listened to a little bit of the audiobook with me in the car. So this happens a lot. Yeah, this happens a lot with Kelsey. She ends up hearing bits and pieces from audiobooks that I'm listening to while we're traveling back home or something, and she's like, "I like that. I'm going to read that." And then she, puts it on a list. Sometimes you actually do it, but 11:22:63 is not one of the.
Usually, when I say, "Ooh, I like this," that means you have to slow down your audiobook.
Also, to be fair, I did read it when I was like 11, kind of like Key did.
Yeah.
When he was
See,
10,
like I mean,
so.
I was probably like Kev, like I was about 12 or so.
Christina says hello.
Hi, Christina.
Christina, I loved your vlog, by the way. Totally spoiled the book for me, but I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to watch all of this. It was excellent. It was amazing. Danny has been a Marine for 20 years. She ain't ever getting out. Maybe by the end of winter, she'll be getting out of there. We will not know. I'll be very curious to see how you feel about Marine when you read through them. I love it, but not every single person. Not every single person does. Christina says, Alan is watching on his phone, but I had to pull it up on mine while sitting next to him on the couch so I could comment. I mean, you are your own personality now on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually, funny enough, so I had COVID last week, and last week we had Chatting with Nuts scheduled. I had like discussion scheduled. It was a terrible time to get sick, and I needed to get my wrap up out. And I was telling Kelsey, I'm like, I'm so sick. I literally can't do my wrap up, but it's day 4 of the month. Like I need to get it out. And I had an idea. I was going to have Kelsey do my wrap up. I was going to write my notes and have her present it. But I said, I feel like that would be way too close to Christina taking over Alan's channel. I was like, I feel like that I'd be biting off the style. I couldn't do it. For those who don't know, Christina took over Alan's channel while he was out of town and did a fabulous job with sprints and some videos. Reading vlog was awesome. Great trailer that she did. Very impressive stuff. I loved it. But I was like, man, I would love to have you do my wrap up, but I just didn't want to steal that thunder. You know, I didn't want to be like,
I'm just slowly embedding myself into your channel.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Kelsey's Corner. I think you'll probably end up being a more regular guest, especially as you read more. Like you've really ramped it up this year. How many books do you think you're going to get done this year?
35.
Which
is a big jump from 0.
35. You think it'll be 35 by the end or 35 now?
Oh, I don't know if I'll get through 35 from now. Maybe. It depends how in the beginning of the year, I read a lot of really large books, which slowed me down. So it depends.
That trailer was better than anything you've ever done, Alan. I hate to break it to you. It's better than anything I've ever done too. It was tremendous. Kelsey definitely needs at least a corner.
I think I'm going to see a huge increase though, because now I like audiobooks, and that was a big problem because now I listen to audiobooks on my way to work when I'm doing stuff around the house.
Yeah,
I listen to audiobooks at the gym, which I used to think you were crazy for. Now I really like it, so that's helped a lot.
Dude, every time I walk into our gym, you know what I think of? I think of the Dark Tower.
That's wild.
Because it was like during that weird COVID era, I was listening to the Dark Tower, and like I would just listen to the audiobook, and like every time I walk in, I just think Eddie Dean. That's what I think of every time I walk in the gym. I say it in my head every single time. Eddie Dean. Every time. It's so funny. You'll like have them remember, like, oh, I was in the squat rack whenever that happened. Like it's a really weird way to tie your memories of books. But 35 is a great reading year. I got news for you. I think I'm only at 35 for the year right now. I'm like at 35 to 40. This time last year, I was at like 65.
I was like, that's the thing. I know a lot of people read way more books than I do, but this is a huge increase. You know what other book we read? We both read. You read it before I did. Then I read it. Was Demon Copperhead.
Oh, Demon Copperhead is the easiest book to recommend in the world. And I love seeing people pick it up. I've seen people in the Discord pick it up. People who don't really read outside of the genre pick it up. And I think if you have any experience in a town kind of like that, it's just one of those books that rings true. And it is an absolute slammer of a book. Andrew took it to work. A bunch of people there who do not read, and they all read it and loved it.
I'm trying to get my dad to read it.
Oh, your dad would really like it.
Absolutely.
And that says, I don't understand how y'all do audiobooks. It's way too slower chipmunk voice. I can't stand it. I think it takes some time to get used to. She thought that same thing until this year.
I also realized a lot of it is just the narrator's voice. Like I will sample the audiobook and make the decision if it's a book that I can listen to in audio or not.
Yeah.
Like I started reading Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Well, I started listening to it.
Yes.
And realized that was not a book I could listen to in audio. And that's okay.
It does get easier as the book goes on, but it's very Anna Karenina at the beginning, where it's like, here's like 8 names and everyone has a different name as well. And like, you're like, what in the world is happening right now? Feels has that same feel of like the Russian classics.
I think if I would have started it by also reading the book with it, I could have then used the audiobook later. But at the time, I just wanted to listen to something while I drove to work. And that was not it. Yeah.
But you still want to read it because you are very interested.
I even like what I listened to. I just felt like I could get more out of reading it for that specific book.
Yeah. You will absolutely love it. Zach says he's already read 8 books. 35 is awesome. And I think 8 is also awesome, by the way. I think if reading 5 books in a year, if they mean something to you, got something from, I think that's amazing. Plus, Zach, you're a busy guy. 35, 8, whatever. It's all great, whatever you can manage. Like, I'm down on books for the year, and I don't really pay attention to numbers too often. Like, I'm not a numbers guy. However, I don't feel any worse. If anything, I feel better about my reading year. I feel like I'm gaining the ability to articulate my thoughts after feeling like I was in a slump with that for a really long time. So much to the point where, like, I'm thinking about maybe possibly doing an occasional book review again, because I kind of hit a slump where I felt like I was struggling to articulate my thoughts in ways that were interesting and entertaining, but also didn't want to sound like a broken record. And I've been writing down more stuff, and I feel like I have a way of actually speaking about books. And that's just stuff you got to break through, So even though I've read less books this year, I think I feel better about reading than I ever have.
I think the first book I read this year, it was one of Sarah J. Maas's books, because I wanted to jump on the hype train of everybody else. And it was like 1,000 pages, so it took me a while.
Yeah. I mean, and book page size definitely matters too.
You know what else I had to get over with reading that you helped me, and you kept telling me I had to break it, is being a completionist, and that I have to stop at a perfect chapter, and not that I can just stop at any time and walk back to the book.
Stephen Erickson and Robin Hobb will break you of that.
Robin Hobb sure did. It was so late, and like, I need to get to the next chapter, and then I'm like, there's 45 more pages. I was not making it to the next chapter, and that's okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
It took me a while to break that, but
I just did a break in the middle of a page in Ash Lost History because I couldn't handle anymore because of the sex scene was so brutal. I was just like, I can't read any more of this right now. And I literally just stopped at the end of a page. I was like, I'm done right now.
Yep.
I got to record a vlog update for it because it's out of this world. But Alan is saying that the audiobook for Way of a Dan should be the end of August, beginning of September, depending on how long the editing takes.
That's really exciting.
Do you think you'll listen to Alan's audiobook?
Yeah. I'm here to support you, Alan. You put Mulan in your videos.
That is her favorite thing in booktube. That is true. Shad, Jimmy, how are you liking Empire of Grass? Yeah, I'm reading Empire of Grass by Tab Williams, book 2 in The Last King of Osenard, and I'm loving it. There's one POV I'm not totally sold on, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. But I'm enjoying it quite a lot, and I feel like a lot of bad things are about to happen. So we'll see how that ends up going. Super Gains Bros, my boy Matt says, seriously though, when are we getting some little nuts running around? I am barren. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
We have 2.
Yeah, we have 2. We have Denver and Dallas, and we love them very much. And they don't cost as much as kids. So Margot says, sadly, I DNF Assassin's Prince. I get it. Hobb's very slow. It's not going to be for everybody. It's not. I don't recommend Assassin's Prince to a ton of people.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably recommend it more than the average book because I like it and I feel like I can speak about it confidently, but it's certainly not one that I'm like blanket recommending. There's very few of those books. Yeah, Hobb style is not my thing at all. Totally fine. If I had read Hobb 4 years ago, I probably wouldn't have liked her. I liked her. I came to her at a perfect time. In many ways, emotionally and probably from I don't want to say literacy level, but like where I was at with literature and my taste changing, it actually worked out. Murphy did a great video about her taste changing. Something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's something that you could definitely relate to because you have had your taste change all over the place. You have a very wide palette, which I love. Curiosity breeds entertainment in many ways. But I've been thinking about this for like a year about how my tastes have changed and books I've changed my mind on, what I look for in a book. And I think I might be at the point now where I'm ready to stop preambling everything. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, hey guys, you aren't going to like this book. It's really boring, but I love it. And instead, just say I like the book. It's okay. If people like, for instance, Claire and the Sun. There's gonna be a lot of people read that book because I read it and love it so far. Maybe the ending will suck and I'll hate it. I doubt it though. And a lot of people are gonna read that or Remains of the Day or whatever, and they're gonna say it's boring as sin, and that's okay. And I don't always have to give out the disclaimer, kind of just letting it be as it is. I've been thinking about a lot of things lately when it comes to talking about books, and I feel like I need to make a video about that. But I really liked Murphy's video on her taste changing. By the way, another book, sci-fi book, Born by Jeff Vandermeer. You would really like it. Great female protagonist, post-apocalyptic world. She runs into this thing called Born, which is like this weird, like biotech creature thingy.
Ooh, cool.
And it's kind of like, it's not Lilo and Stitch, but
Oh my god, I love Lilo
I know
and
you
Stitch.
do.
Can we go back to
But
your
it's
favorite companion? It might have been Stitch.
it's not quite Stitch, but it's as adorable,
okay.
but also fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think you would like that book, and I have it downstairs.
You know who my favorite character was? It's something about things being weird but adorable, and House and Cerulean Sea was.
Mhm.
Can't remember his name, but it was the Blob who just wanted to be a butler.
Oh, dude, he was
Favorite
awesome.
character, star.
What was his name?
I don't know.
He was so good in the audiobook
I
too.
loved him. He was the one who mainly had a completely different voice in my brain.
Ohana means family. I assume this is from Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a Stitch doll.
I've never
and you
seen
could
it.
tuck his extra arms back into his body.
What happened to it?
What do you mean?
What happened to it? Why would you get rid of it?
It's probably at my parents' house.
We should bring it back. Chauncey. It was
Chauncey.
Chauncey.
Yes. Favorite.
That is excellent. Born was so strange. Born is really strange, but if you can get down with that, I think it's pretty excellent. T Baggins, I have not How You Lose a Time More. A lot of people, that seems to be a polarizing one. Bookborn says, I was thinking of that book as one I don't recommend much anymore. I've heard that. I've heard it's very, divisive, very polarizing for sure. Alan says his favorite part of Lilo and Stitch just clocking Cobra Bubbles in the face with that book.
Did you ever play the Lilo and Stitch game when you were a kid?
No, I never even saw it. I just know of it.
You were just Stitch running back and forth trying to make the largest sandwich that you could.
You do like sandwiches.
I also love video games. So
yeah, Kelsey actually loves video games, plays them almost as much, sometimes more than me.
I played more video games as a kid than I read books.
Yeah, you are a big Zelda fan. Horizon Zero Dawn, you love that. I'm trying to get you to play a Souls game soon. We'll see which one. Probably Elden Ring because it's the easiest one to start with. Mitch says, what is your opinion on the term purple prose? I have no opinion, Mitch, on purple prose. I think people should just read the writing and like it or dislike it and move on. I think that's just fine. Oh man, How You Lose a Time Word is amazing. Yes, me and Alan did spank Consort Radon, which was fantastic. Bookborn says Zach is playing Horizon right now, and I'm playing Zelda. Sounds like Kelsey needs to join us. That is the perfect combo for her. Those are the two games I've seen her spend the most time in, probably recently.
That's like the only other one.
Last of Us.
Yep. The Last of Us.
Kelsey, are you excited for the new Zelda game with Zelda as the playable character?
Yes, because I've always wanted to be Zelda.
Yeah.
Once again, here for
Zelda is definitely at the top.
I love Link, but I would definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, she has played for Ben West. She beat it. You weren't as over the moon about it.
Because some of it was repetitive, but I still really enjoyed it and played the entire
The graphics were beautiful. I watched her play it.
Such a beautiful game. I like the story behind it. That's good.
You also love Mario Odyssey.
You know what else I love?
What?
I think you just ribbed me on it like 2 weeks ago. Spyro.
Oh my goodness, this girl loves Spyro.
I played Spyro the Reimagined Edition, and it was incredible, and I would do it all over again.
Yeah, me and Garrick were ribbing you about it because it was so funny. My husband is making me play Destiny. Destiny was a good time. I had fun. With that. Meowcat says, my true love is Skyrim and Lego video games. I've always said that you would love Skyrim. I feel like you would really like it.
I just didn't get into it at the right time.
I also would love to see you play Red Dead Redemption 2.
I want to play that.
Yeah, because the Western thing, I could see you liking that. And the story, incredible.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite stories. Yeah. I like Westerns,
stories.
though. I'm a big Western person.
I like the story portion of a lot of video games.
Yeah, you wouldn't get much story out of the Souls games, but I would get enjoyment out of watching you die a lot.
Well, sometimes I get frustrated and become just a button smasher when it comes to
Not
combat.
A good idea in Souls.
And that's why I'm afraid.
Yeah, sometimes watching you maneuver a camera in a video game is my personal hell.
Well, you reverse the controls. I can't do that.
Fancy Wash, our good friend who we've met, says popping in to say hi. Hello. Good to see you.
So she recommended me a book.
What was it?
Butcher and Blackbird.
Yeah.
And
wait,
I love.
Is that the romance one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where she was read the trigger warnings. If they're funny, you're gonna like it. Great. Because I also, despite me actually liking Enemies to Lover, I don't like cringy banter.
Okay.
It will definitely give me the ick on things. I loved the banter in that book.
Okay.
And it was this interesting mix of Dexter and the show You.
You know, You is a book, right? We own it.
I watched the show. I didn't know it was
I've
a
heard the
book.
book is awesome.
Oh, well, I would probably read
I
it
own
because
it.
I liked the book or the show a
It's
lot.
downstairs. I actually was going to read it, I think at the end of last year, and I ended up doing an extra Patreon pick and bumped it off my TBR. But like, I was like going to read it. I've heard it's really good.
Oh, I would definitely. But I loved it. Banter was fantastic.
Fancy Wash agrees with you. What is the book that you just read that you were like, this book is dog shit? But you were like, I'm reading the sequel.
You're putting me on blast.
What was it?
It's called Flock by Kate Stewart.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure it's self-pub. I don't even know how I got it.
Yeah,
I don't even know why I bought it.
You fall for a little bit of the Bookstagram self-pub hype when like it's like you got to read.
Well, I didn't know it was self-pub, and I ordered it and I go,
There's nothing wrong with it being self-pub.
no, I just didn't realize what I was actually ordering. And then I read the book and I was like,
yeah, you read it and you were like, isn't it like reverse haram or some guy? She finished that book. That might be the most negative I've ever heard you about a book, but you do it with a smile on your face. You're like, that book was awful.
I ordered the next one.
And she goes, the sequel will be here tomorrow. And I was like, why?
It's downstairs.
I kind of miss that.
Because
like reading bad books sequels
for fun.
For fun.
For enjoyment.
For fun. Because I'm trying to find stuff, that people will enjoy. So like if a book is mid, like very rare chance I continue, but you're over here just reading slop and you're like, yeah, I'll probably read that sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to enable that author to write some more of this slop. That's crazy. I love it.
But some people might love it. That's
fine. Mitch said, did you know that the version of Crime and Punishment with Steve Donahue's cover blurb was featured on the show You?
Oh.
I don't know if Mitch is telling the truth or not. I don't know.
I don't know.
I literally have no idea.
I feel like not, but
Krista says Steve haters in shambles. Oh my goodness. No shade on reverse haram. I don't have a problem with reverse haram as long as it's done well. And I don't think, was it done well? The answer is no.
I don't know. That entire book I still don't know what's happening, which I think is why I actually got the second book, because I just want to know what is actually happening.
I have a feeling you're going to end up being disappointed with the answers.
I've never heard anyone read the second one. There's 3.
It is crazy that we're here
talking
on a YouTube channel about books, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like not what we would have expected when I went and bought my Canon M50 at Best Buy for Christmas to start filming booktube videos, huh?
No, we're like, worst thing that can happen is we'll just use this camera for like taking
pictures of the cats.
Vacation.
Pictures of the cats.
Like,
yeah,
that's fine. Let's just try it.
But
then
weird.
when you got into it, I don't think we ever expected that then I would start reading more and then I would be sitting here as well.
No, I don't think we did. We certainly didn't think it would turn into something that was a thing. It's kind of weird. Yeah, it's weird. And now you've been with me. We've met people from BookTube. We've met people in the community, and it's always awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, it's a way to connect with people that otherwise you would never meet.
Yeah,
or
and
potentially you would never even think to be friends with. Like it just doesn't run in your standard circle, but books open you up to all different types of people who might like the same thing as you.
Yeah, and especially whenever you love reading so much. I feel like it's a pretty deep tie, like I had a lot of guys in jiu-jitsu, and this, like I have like 1 or 2 people from jiu-jitsu I consider real friends, but like there's so many guys, like you see them outside of jiu-jitsu and you're like, oh, I don't have anything in common with, I don't have anything to talk about. But it feels like whenever you have reading just covers such a wide base that like I feel like I get along with those people generally better. And every time we've met somebody from the community or another booktuber or whatever, it's never awkward.
No,
it's very natural.
The craziest thing.
Hang out with Joe in Chicago literally felt like I knew Joe my whole life. I was seeing him again.
Yeah.
Even though it was the first time we had met, it's just meeting strangers on the internet. I highly recommend it.
It's worked out for us.
Give them your social security number. That's the best thing you could possibly do. Build trust. Leave it in the No, don't. I'm kidding. Yeah. So we've been going for about 2 hours. The cats are probably wanting some attention. What do you have to say to the kind people at home that have been tuning in this stream? We've had about 150 up to 200 people watching you. Were you nervous?
I don't know. Probably not now.
Yeah. You're the
I never know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I do that.
And then I have to keep up.
Yeah, I do that a lot. And I also, oh, Joe is still here. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
We will be
one other
coming
book.
back to Chicago. Another book
in October.
Okay.
Sundown Motel. Can we
By
finally read
Saint
it?
Simone
St. James.
Simone St. James. I've wanted to read that book for like 3 years.
I do too. Sitting.
You read her Cold Case Files, right?
I did, yeah.
Was
I
it
read
good?
that. We bought that
forever ago.
Pal's Books.
Pal's Books.
And I read it on the flight home.
That was 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then they didn't have Sundown Motel, which is the one everyone talked about, but that's been on our list. So come October, maybe we'll fix that in too.
That would be dope. And Alan, we will come to your house,
Yes.
and I will steal a lot of things from you. That's my new thing. I'm going to be a kleptomaniac and just steal things from people. That's my new goal.
This has
Heirlooms.
Been really cool, and I appreciate how kind everyone is to me. Because this is technically your world, right? Like you built all of this.
No.
Listen.
You give me up for many hours.
Yes.
You help out a ton. You put up with me whenever I'm getting angry about lighting. I mean, back in the day, this wasn't a setup. We had to set it up each time. I mean, do you remember how stressful that was? It wasn't fun because I'm very particular about how things look, and it's got to be perfect. If I'm going to do something, I want to do it well.
But I was always in the background, and I don't necessarily always read the same books that you read. My taste branches all over the place. But people still came, chatted, asked questions, got to talk. That's really cool.
And maybe somebody will pick up some romance books or something, or some dark romances, as you called it, I believe.
I got some really good book recommendations. So you may not have gotten anything from me, but thanks for all your recommendations.
And Alan says, you haven't betrayed me, Kelsey, so I will remain kind.
For now.
It was wonderful to have everyone here. Mitch says, singing their beds and stealing their cutlery. That's me.
Enabling.
Christina says, so fun with both of you. I love it. Live stream virtual double date sometime, or a real double date if y'all come to Florida and we ever get up to your. Absolutely, on all accounts. I actually thought about doing a double date Chatting with Nuts episode with you and Alan. I think it would be absolutely pandemonium. I don't know if it would be enjoyable for all the listeners, but it'd be certainly enjoyable for us.
We would have fun.
It would be a lot of fun. People seem to like you, Kelsey. They seem to think that you're pretty great. So I think that, yeah, it's your world too. That's right. Kelsey's Corner. I would like to think this is like kind of like the first, but maybe we'll be doing a Game of Thrones vlog in the future, especially going to the sets and stuff. I think that would be fun.
Coming soon.
Do you have anything you want to tell the people?
You're all amazing. I appreciate your time, you attending. I also really appreciate all the cool relationships you got to build through all of this.
Yeah. I mean, legitimately some of my best friends. Yeah.
And then I also get to hang out with cool people. So it's great.
Yeah, because you're a little shy.
Yeah.
I gotta push her to do social things.
I'm the introvert.
Yes. And now our only regret is that Murphy lives so far away that Kelsey and her can't be best friends.
Yes.
Kelsey is the GOAT. I agree. Folks, if you like this episode, it would mean a whole lot to Kelsey's self-esteem if you hit like. It also depends, if the like ratio is not up there, divorce is on the table. No.
Do I get to keep the ring?
Yeah, you can have it. I don't even know if it's fake. I never told you. It's not real.
I'd be okay with that.
In a sea of zirconians, you are a diamond.
Wow.
That's what George R. R. Martin said about Robin Hobb. I say it all the time. Okay, so if you like it, hit like. That really helps out the channel quite a bit. You can hit subscribe if you want to see more of us. We'll definitely be doing a vlog together. Maybe Kelsey will be featured a little bit more on the channel as long as, the comments are there. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know about some romance books that you like or that Kelsey would like, maybe. There's Patreon in the descriptions. Optional, but always appreciated. Until we see you next time, be good, be safe, and remember to always
keep turning the page.
Beautiful. Nailed it.
Nailed
Absolutely.
it.